We are in cowboy hats, father and son. The hats, sadly, weren't big enough for our big heads. Nothing ever changes. But seriously, look, it's great to be back in the saddle here at GB News, and much love and respect to my sister, my father, and my new brother-in-law, Lewis. Anyway, enough about me. Let's crack on with the show. Loads to talk about today, including a huge historic victory for women following hot on the heels of that Supreme Court victory. Women, trans women, kicked out of women's football and netball and cricket. Is that a victory for common sense? I'll be asking pundits next. Get in touch usual ways, gbnews.com/your say. But now's your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Downing Street says biology matters following the FA's decision to ban transgender women from playing women's football in England next season. It follows a similar move by the Scottish FA this week after a UK Supreme Court ruling in April that found a female is defined by biological sex. The FA says it's always been ready to make the necessary changes if there's a material change in law, science, or the operation of the policy in grassroots football. Well, the FA amended its rules last month, applying stricter criteria for transgender women to continue playing in women's football. But that's now been scrapped, and the new ban will come into effect on the 1st of June. The Met Office has confirmed today is the warmest start to May on record in the UK. That's after 28 degrees was recorded at Kew Gardens in south-west London a little earlier. Now, the previous record for May, perhaps surprising, 27.4 recorded in Scotland on the 1st of May 1990. So, 35 years apart? Despite the soaring temperatures, the Met Office, though, has ruled out a heat wave this week. But anyway, enjoy it while you can. The body of a teenager has been recovered from a lake in Nottinghamshire after reports of a 16-year-old boy getting into difficulty while swimming. A police underwater search team and the fire service also responded, finding the boy's body just before 8 p.m. last night. Police confirmed the boy's death was not being treated as suspicious. It comes as parts of the UK have experienced these very warm temperatures for May so far. Voters head to the polls today for the country's local elections, parts of the country anyway. The fate of 23 local authorities, 6 mayoral seats and the first by-election of this parliament will hang in the balance. Voting closes at 10 o'clock tonight, and you can stay with GB News throughout the night for more coverage. An Australian woman accused of killing her in-laws with a poisonous beef Wellington has admitted to picking wild mushrooms. But she insists the tragedy was a terrible accident. Erin Patterson, who's pleaded not guilty to murdering her relatives, maintains she didn't intend to harm anyone. That day, prosecutors say she served the meal but ate from a separate, smaller and differently coloured plate than her 4 guests. Foreign Secretary says the UK welcomes the signing of an economic deal between the US and Ukraine as the two countries signed a historic rare minerals agreement late last night. Now, the US Treasury announced a reconstruction investment fund for Ukraine, with its Prime Minister describing the deal as truly an equal and good international deal. Now, it will allow America to use Ukraine's natural resources, things like oil and gas, as well as those precious earth minerals. Ukraine's foreign minister says the deal is an important milestone in the country's partnership. Sir Keir Starmer agrees with that. That's according to Downing Street. President Trump has asked for more time on the US economy as it shrank for the first time in 3 years, stoking fears of a recession. And Mr. Trump says the figure is misleading because companies have stockpiled imports because of his imposition of tariffs.
But this is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th. And I think you have to get us a little bit of time to get moving. But this is the Biden economy.
The Met Police says counter-terrorism officers will investigate the Irish rap trio Kneecap after online videos have emerged that appear to show its members calling for the death of British MPs and shouting, "Up Hamas, up Hezbollah." The force has said this: in April, we were made aware of an online video believed to be from a music event in London from November last year, We were made aware of a further video believed to be from another music event in London in November 2023 regarding the group. It goes on to say both videos have been referred to the Counter-Terrorism Internal Referral Unit for assessment by specialist officers. They've determined there are grounds for a further investigation into potential offences linked to both videos. And His Majesty the King has been reflecting on his experiences with cancer. He was hosting representatives from community-based cancer organisations and initiatives at Buckingham Palace last night. The King, alongside Queen Camilla, thanked those who support cancer patients and their loved ones, praising the profound impact of human connection offered by those working in the sector. His Majesty said each new cancer diagnosis will be a daunting and frightening experience for those individuals and their loved ones. He went on to quote the late Dame Deborah James, who encouraged everyone to always have rebellious hope. Those are your headlines. More from me in about half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, the Football Association has announced that transgender women, that's biological men, will no longer be able to play in women's football from June the 1st this year. And the governing body of football stated that while its goal is to make football as inclusive as possible, its policy has always been subject to change in response to shifts in law or science. Well, following the move from the FA, England Netball announced a ban, whilst the England and Wales Cricket Board are expected to formally follow suit tomorrow. Well, let's now waste no time. Let's speak with the former referee and FIFA instructor, Janie Frampton. Janie, welcome to the show. Delight to have your company. Janie, you've been outspoken so many times on this channel and elsewhere. Primary to you is women's safety. I'm assuming today is a huge victory in your mind.
Absolutely, Martin. Good afternoon and welcome back. Yes, absolutely. The safety is not just about the biology here and whether we are making sure that everybody gets their rights. It is about safety first and foremost. We always believe, rightfully so, that we have to protect the integrity of sport, and the integrity is about fairness. This is absolutely the right decision because I hear so many times from women playing against trans women that the tackles are harder, the strength and stamina of trans women is much higher than women in general. This had to be the right decision. The only thing I'm surprised at, Martin, is why the FA made their ruling early April when they knew that the court ruling was coming within a few weeks, because now they've had to do a U-turn. And they have set standards so high in the past, which is why they did lots of research around the gender of children and young people playing football, and they ruled that above under 13 you couldn't have mixed genders for that very reason. And all the time trans women are not biological women. It cannot be a fair playing field.
And Janie, talk our viewers and listeners through, if you can, some of the obvious physical advantages that trans women have, and also the types of injuries that we've seen sustained in sport since trans women started to play. We've seen a huge increase, have we not, in impact injuries on biological women.
Sure. So if you look at the strength and stamina of a biological man, and you compare it to that of a biological woman, there is a huge difference, which is why women's football and men's football are completely different games. One is the strength, the long ball. One is the more technical play to feet, because the women are just not as strong as men. So when you start to have a trans woman playing in a women's team, that is a massive advantage for the team and a disadvantage for the other team. The tackles, my goodness, I refereed men's professional football, Martin, and the tackles were hard. That's not what women should be facing. And you are right, the injuries that women are sustaining, and I'm not saying from trans women tackles, but what they are actually sustaining now is more and more ACLs, for example, that we're experiencing.
And explain to us what that means. What's an ACL?
Yeah, it's the arterial cruciate ligament.
Right.
So men in football get them, of course, but they're now realising that the way the woman's biology is and their physiology, women are getting more and more ACL injuries, and that can finish a woman's career. And it's a really, really big operation and quite dangerous for them. So we've got to be really mindful. You know what? We are different. Our physiology is different. That's what makes us different, Martin. I'm sure you've noticed.
Well, I try not to misgender anybody on this show, you know that, Janie, but on a serious point, netball, England netball has swiftly followed suit. Cricket expected to follow. Do you think that Supreme Court ruling, and of course Donald Trump in America, we heard a short while ago, a press conference from Washington, they are absolutely adamant that this era, this period of biological men being able to participate in women's sport is over, finished, showing the red card. Do you think today marks a significant moment in sport where this might signify a sea change? Or do you think actually there'll be resistance? We've seen resistance in women-only swimming groups, even the NHS, 28 boroughs in London refusing to comply with the Supreme Court law. Are you glass half full about it, Janie?
I'm absolutely glass half full, because I tell you now, this is not going to stop. You are going to get protests, of course you are. But as a woman, I am proud to have been born a woman. I'm proud to continue being a woman. But I want to go into women-safe spaces. I don't want to change in a communal changing room, in a department store, and change with somebody who's got a beard. I don't want to. And if that's wrong, then so be it. I'm wrong. I don't want to go into gender-neutral toilets where, excuse it, but men often miss the seat, so that's not what I want, and most women are of the same mind. Everybody should have their own space. Trans women deserve their own space, but please don't erode my rights, just so that we can give rights to another minority group.
Janie, I think you're absolutely right. Of course, we want inclusive sport. We want sport for all, but we also want fairness and we want safety. Janie Frampton, thank you, as ever, for your expertise on GBNews. Former referee and FIFA instructor Janie Frampton, fantastic guest. Now, the FA has released a statement and it says this: as the governing body of the national sport, our role is to make football accessible to as many people as possible within legal and international rules. The Supreme Court's ruling in April means that we will be changing our policy. Transgender women will no longer be able to play in women's football in England, and this policy will be implemented from the 1st of June 2025. And we are contacting the registered transgender women currently playing to explain the changes and how they can continue to stay involved in the game. Now, moving on, the Met's counter-terrorism units have confirmed that the Irish band Kneecap are now officially under investigation. And this comes following heavy criticism over claims they called for MPs to be killed. And we can now speak with GBNews' home and security editor, Mark White. Mark, great to have your company again. It's been a long week away from your expertise. But on a serious point, these are serious allegations. Allegations only at present pertaining to 2 videos from 2023 and 2024. Bring us up to speed, Mark.
Yes, indeed, they are serious, and who knows what else might be sort of looked at and wiggled out in terms of anything else this band, controversial band, of course, may have said in the past. But the 2 statements in particular that are being investigated by counter-terrorism police relate to 2 concerts that took place in London. One in November of 2023, in which it claimed that the band made really very hateful messages about the only good Tory MP is a dead Tory MP, and go and kill your local MP. That, of course, in the wake of the murder of Sir David Amess. And then in November of 2024, at another concert at the O2 in London, again the band were recorded apparently saying or giving their support to Hamas, a proscribed terrorist organisation. And you see there, of course, posing next to the Palestinian flag. Nothing wrong with that. But giving your forthright support for a prescribed terrorist group would conceivably be a criminal offence that you could be prosecuted for. Now, we have had some reaction to the developments this morning, confirming that the Metropolitan Police now believe that there is a potential case or cases to answer here, and that they will investigate more fully. Katie Amos, the daughter of the late Sir David Amos, has issued a statement, and in that, Martin, she says NICAP's rhetoric is not only abhorrent, but poses a direct threat to the safety and well-being of elected officials and the democratic institutions they represent. The glorification and incitement of violence have no place in our society and must be unequivocally condemned, she says. However, multiple artists are now coming forward from the music world, Martin, to give their support to the Under Fire NICAP group. And in that joint statement that they've released, they say this past week has seen a clear concerted attempt to censor and ultimately deplatform the band NICAP. In a democracy, no political figures or political parties should have the right to dictate who does and does not play at music festivals or gigs, and will be enjoyed by thousands of people. The question of agreeing with NICAP's political views is irrelevant. It is in the key interests of every artist that all creative expression be protected in a society that values culture, and that this interference campaign is condemned and ridiculed. So that quite a number of you can see them there, the various artists from the music world that have banded together to offer their support to NICAP. They say, look, you know, it's rock and roll effectively. That is often, you know, controversial in terms of statements that rock and roll bands have made over the years, and they say it should be treated in that same vein with the group NICAP here, and that there has been a complete overreaction to what they have said.
I wonder, Mark White, if those very same acts would be supporting an act, I don't know, if they called for the death of all Labour MPs, or if they called for the support of a prescribed terrorist organisation which they felt was right-wing. I wonder if this is part of the fact that actually Lovedon seems to be very pro-Palestine. It seems to be of the mindset the Conservatives are a force of bad. And if these allegations are true, I wonder, Mark White, if they're not acted upon, will it make people say again, this is two-tiered policing?
Well, you have a good point, well made. Can I be devil's advocate here and maybe suggest that actually many of our audience who have been very critical of the way in which the police have inserted themselves in issues which might be construed as being freedom of speech might be a bit uncomfortable what is playing out here. So there are two sides to this. And of course, here on GB News, we'll bring you both sides.
Mark White, supremely balanced as ever. I'd expect no less. Thank you very much for being on the show today. It's great to have you back on the show. Thank you. Now it's time now for the Great British Giveaway, and it's our biggest prize to date, and your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you like in your very own 4-berth motorhome worth a whopping 67 grand. I want one of these badly. Here's all the details for you to win it.
You could be spending your summer in style on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. And coming up next, Ukraine and the US have signed a long-awaited minerals deal. Could this be a crucial step in ending the war? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Today, voters across England go to the polls.
In a series of council elections.
Mayoral elections and one crucial by-election.
They'll vote on the local issues that matter to them and let the parties know where they stand.
We'll be here throughout the night.
Live around the country.
As the first results come in.
And from 6 a.m, as it all becomes clearer, we'll be here to discuss what it means for you.
Vote 2025, the people decide, from 11 p.m. tonight.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches and the dramatic fly-past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Today, voters across England go to the polls.
In a series of council elections.
Mayoral elections and one crucial by-election.
They'll vote on the local issues that matter to them and let the parties know where they stand.
We'll be here throughout the night.
Live around the country.
As the first results come in.
And from 6 a.m, as it all becomes clearer, we'll be here to discuss what it means for you.
Vote 2025, the people decide, from 11 p.m. tonight.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, Ukraine has struck an historic deal with the United States after an Oval Office clash put it on hold. Remember that huge bust-up at the White House now seems a world away because the long-awaited US-Ukraine minerals deal has now been signed. And Ukrainian advisors say its natural resources deal with the US will hopefully lead to the establishment of lasting, enduring and just peace. So is there cause for huge optimism? Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the defence editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox. Robert, always a pleasure to have your esteemed company and expertise.
Thank you.
Is this the beginning of the end of the Ukraine war, and how good a deal do you think this is?
I'm not allowed to say it. It's a little smidgen. It's a little opening of optimism, which people were wondering what was going to come of that conversation. It was a true tete-a-tete. Their heads were down between Donald Trump and Zelensky in St. Peter's just before the Pope's funeral. They say in our trade, don't they, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Actually, it's the other way round. A resting picture, we want to know the few hundred words that they exchanged. Donald was giving Zelensky his point of view, but it was very quiet, and nobody overheard it. Yeah. That's the most interesting thing. Yeah. And then Zelensky replied and was very much on receive. I think various understandings were understood there, and maybe even part of this, maybe the disappearance of Zelensky later in the year when there's an election, because he is exhausted after all. I do think if explored, not exploited, this really could be the beginning of something, because Trump doesn't want this war to go on, Zelensky doesn't, Europe doesn't, and we have to see where Putin and the Russian armed forces are. They're in difficulty.
And there's some fascinating devil in the detail, there always is. A minerals for bombs deal, if you like, rocks for rockets. America now saying they're prepared to help rearm Ukraine. Of course, that'd be paid for in part by this huge minerals deal, and also fascinating postscript, if you like. It also promises that the US won't use the deal to block Ukraine's bid to join the European Union.
Absolutely. That will not be music to the ears of Putin and his entourage, because the one thing that they really don't want is they don't want a powerful Europe. In a funny way, Trump doesn't want a powerful European market, but it looks to me as if he's prepared to live with it. He said, if you Europeans really live up to what I want, which is spend money on your own defence, and by the way, EU total defence spending, it's not there yet, but within 2 or 3 years may equal America's, as it should. And he's warning all the partners, my target is 3.5% or even 5% of GDP, which countries like Poland are heading fast towards.
Robert, is it fair to say some people have criticised this deal as a carve-up of territory with echoes of the past, where nations were simply divided up and the spoils of war? But this does help Ukraine to rebuild. It does help Ukraine to have these doors open to defence pacts with America, to potential membership of the European Union. Is it a fair deal for Ukraine? Will it be acceptable? And what about Vladimir Putin?
Well, that's the second bit. We'll come on to that, because that is very important, of course. And what does he say? He's been saying things all over the shop, frankly. And his acolytes have been saying that some of them have been quite peaceful. Others have been very belligerent. Mr. Peskov, the official spokesman, has been saying today, we want root causes addressed. Actually, you'd expect that. But the EU one is very interesting, and your point about territory is very interesting. Oh, come on. You see, history doesn't work like that. The famous William Faulkner said, the past isn't dead because the past isn't even over yet. It's a continuity. To say it was always like that, the idea of rigid borders, or try to make borders rigid, only really came in late 19th century at the end of the First World War, as you know. You look at the story of Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, which was a huge Dutch, and it has been fluid. And I think that we can draw a lesson there, because it's very tribal. It's very tribal identity and whatever. Actually, the Ukrainians knew that they would probably have to give up territory, in fact. And I think that Crimea, and I think Trump is prepared to accept this, will remain disputed territory. Putin, on the other hand, has offered a ceasefire, but continued to bombard with drones. Drones, where the Ukrainians are very good, it's the only thing he's really got to rely on. The army is exhausted. The calculations of some of the institutes here is it would take 10 years for it to get back to its full strength than it was in February 2022. So he's caught. And by the way, now, as of this month, the Russian economy has stopped growing.
Robert Fox, I could talk to you all day. Fascinating stuff. And thank you for coming into the studio today.
Pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you. And lots more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including the Met Office has confirmed that today is the warmest start to May on record in the UK after a temperature of a sizzling 28 degrees. We're around the country to catch up with our hot and sweaty reporters and to find out how the public are coping. But first, here's your news headlines, and it's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Just after 3:30, transgender women will no longer be able to play in women's football from the 1st of June. The FA has amended its rules on the 11th of April. It applied stricter criteria for transgender women to continue playing at all levels, but that has now been scrapped, with the new policy stipulating only those born biologically female will be allowed to play. It mirrors a decision made in Scotland earlier this week and follows last month's ruling in the Supreme Court that found the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. Downing Street says biology matters, and it will support governing bodies to protect the integrity, safety and fairness of sport. Cricket has indicated it is likely to follow suit. The UK's Foreign Secretary says the country welcomes the signing of an economic deal between the US and Ukraine. The two countries signed an historic rare minerals agreement last night. The US announced this reconstruction investment fund for Ukraine, with the country's Prime Minister describing it as an equal and good international deal. It will give America access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Ukraine's foreign minister believes it's an important milestone in the US partnership, as he hopes that it will provide security guarantees for the country in its war with Russia. A counter-terrorism officer from the Met Police will investigate online videos from the Irish rap trio Kneecap amid allegations that its members have called for the deaths of British MPs and have shouted their support for Hamas and Hezbollah. The force has said, on the 22nd of April, we were made aware of an online video believed to be from a music event in London in November last year. Following this, we were made aware of a further video believed to be from another music event in London in 2023. Now, both videos have been referred to the counter-terrorism unit for assessment by specialist officers. They've determined there are grounds for an investigation into potential offences linked to both videos. The body of a teenager has been recovered from a lake in Nottinghamshire after reports that a 16-year-old boy got into difficulty swimming. A police underwater search team and the fire service have responded. They found the boy's body last night around 8 o'clock. Police confirmed it has not been treated as suspicious. It does come, of course, as many parts of the UK have experienced unusually hot weather. And speaking of the weather, it's been confirmed that this is the warmest start to May on record in the UK. 28 degrees Celsius was recorded in southwest London at Kew Gardens. The previous record, 27.4, recorded in 1990 on the same day, the 1st of May, back in Scotland. That was in 1990. Despite the soaring temperatures, the Met Office says it will start cooling off this weekend, and they've ruled out a heat wave. Those are the headlines. More at the top of the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Let's just bring you up to date with how the markets are looking right now. A quick snapshot for you. The pound buys you $1.33 and 1.17 euros. Gold will cost £2,419 and 65 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,483 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's very warm out there, even hot in places. Sunny skies across England and Wales, but cooler Cloudier weather spreading into Scotland and Northern Ireland for the rest of the day, along with a few showers because of this cold front. And this cold front separates the heat to the south with much fresher air coming in to the north. Now, the heat in the south could set off the odd shower or thunderstorm heading into the late afternoon, evening period. They'll linger across some central parts overnight. Otherwise, most places are dry with clear spells through the hours of darkness. And again, temperature contrast will be significant overnight. Low single figures possible in the north, even a touch of grass frost, but further south, another warm and muggy night in places. That leads us on to a bright start for most of us first thing Friday. Still some showers across the far north and northwest of Scotland, a cool breeze here, and plenty of cloud in the northwest of Scotland, but some decent sunny spells through Aberdeenshire, across Fife into the central belt. Northern Ireland also seeing bright skies first thing, but we've got this zone of cloud and a few showers dotted across parts of Mid Wales into the Midlands, and cloudier skies certainly compared with the recent mornings for some southern and more especially southwestern counties of England. That'll tend to thin into the afternoon, and then plenty of sunny skies once again across England and Wales. Once more, though, Northern Ireland, Scotland seeing largely cloudy conditions, although brightening up as the day progresses. A few showers in the far north of Scotland, but for most, it's a dry afternoon, and it's still very warm in the south and southeast, 26, 27 Celsius, much fresher elsewhere. Could see the odd shower for some of these southern counties of England, but for the vast majority, it's a dry and fine day because we've still got high pressure nearby. However, it's bringing winds in from a different direction, so mostly fine weather going into the bank holiday weekend, 1 or 2 showers, but temperatures dropping away.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Motorists travelling on the M4 between Junction 22 Pilning and Junction 23. Rogier should be aware that resurfacing work has led to the bridge being closed, with diversions in place. The A74M is closed in both directions at Junction 21, with alternative routes advised due to a collision. In Kent, a vehicle fire has closed all lanes on the M20 westbound between Junction 12 and Junction 11. Finally, in Barnsley, the M1 southbound between Junction 37 and Junction 36 remains fully closed following an accident. Please allow extra time for all mentioned routes. And for more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches and the dramatic fly past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:38 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News on this wonderful afternoon because it's a superb scorcher today. Yes, the hottest start to May on record as temperatures have hit 28 degrees in south-west London. So, could this be the beginnings of a long, hot summer? Well, we can now speak with GB News reporter Doogie Beattie, who is in Hyde Park, and GB News presenter Ben Leo, who is in Brighton. Ben Leo, I'm going to start with you. I've been watching you throughout the day, mate. It's been a feast of ice cream, of eye candy. Earlier on, looked like you're on the set of Baywatch. You've got the best gig in on the channel today, mate. Tell us more.
Yeah, from Madrid to Brighton, I'll do anything not to go back to the office. I'm back there tonight covering Patrick's show. Yeah, Martin, it's been great. It feels like the height of summer. You wouldn't think that it's the start of May. Last month, April, apparently was the sunniest April since records began in 1910. If you ask me, long may it continue. Bring it on. Let me just give you some colour and scenery around here. If we spin around here, we've got the West Pier of Brighton, the remains, and the beaches are absolutely packed. As I said, it feels like the height of sort of June, July, August. And also, if we just go back there, deck chairs for hire. Is that good value for money? A £5 for a deck chair, a tenner for a sunbed. By the looks of it, most people seem to be braving the pebbles. Let's take a walk down here. The drinks are flowing, lots of pints. It feels like party season. This is, here we go. I found one person to speak to at least. This is Dylan. Dylan, how you doing? Nice to see you.
All good.
How you enjoying your day?
Loving the weather, loving the sun. Even though it's a little bit cloudy, it's still beautiful outside. The vibes are good, you know.
What have you guys been up to today? You've been down here sort of dancing and drinking?
Dancing, drinking, you know the vibes. It's the start of summer, so it's got to be done.
And what does the sunshine mean to you? When the sun's out in the morning and you wake up and you look out the window and the sun's shining, what does it mean to you? How do you feel?
I feel good, you know. I feel like the day is just getting started. I feel like it's better vibes than obviously winter, you know, when everyone's working. I feel like everyone's on the same level, you know?
Yeah.
When the sun's out, everyone's, good vibes.
I feel like the earth is saying, hey, how are we doing?
Good man. There we go, Martin. The earth is saying, hey, how you doing? The sun definitely was this morning. Let's see if we can walk down here. Have we got time for one more? See if we find one more person. Ladies, hello. You enjoying your day?
Yes, we are. Thank you very much.
Why do you love the sun?
Because it makes you look all glowing and healthy.
Yeah, nice tans. I'll agree with that. Feel good factor. There we go. There we go, Martin. Nice tans. I'm not sure if I'm tanned or burnt, but we're getting there. Back to you.
Ben Leo, beautiful stuff. I tell you, whatever that fella's drinking there in Brighton, I'd like a pint of that. Looks absolutely gorgeous. Now let's get to Hyde Park. Thank you, Ben. Let's speak to Doogie Beattie there in Hyde Park. Doogie Beattie, I had the absolute pleasure of seeing you earlier on, huffing and puffing on a pedalo. What are you up to now?
Well, I think the huffing and puffing and the pedalo was about as far as the park would allow us to go. Of course, this is a royal park, and it is a very safe space for families. You have to behave yourself here. But it is, you have to behave yourself here, but of course it is in total contrast to what goes on a public beach in Brighton. But it is a fabulous place, Martin. I mean, to have this in your doorstep in London, you wouldn't know this park was in here. As I said, the pedalos earlier on, we were pushing our luck with that. But really, we've had a fantastic day here. The sun is getting warmer as we stand here. And earlier on, I caught up with a few of the tourists that are visiting.
Oh, it's perfect. It's better than in Spain. Yes, it's really.
The weather is very good. I like it, but it's a little bit too warm, for my personal opinion.
It's spectacular. It's wonderful. We didn't expect it to be quite so nice.
I'm used to warm, but I didn't pack for warm. So I'm a little hot.
Today's amazing, but usually it's not like this, right?
So we are lucky.
Yeah.
Well, that girl from California, of course, she packed to be in a typical British April or May, and of course she got it wrong. God help her, she's walking about there absolutely sweating, perspiring, because of course she's packed the wrong clothes. But absolutely beautiful sunlight, beautiful day, and a real good place to take the family. The only piece of sand around here, of course, is the sand for the horses to gallop right around the park, which is in itself is something to see, especially when the guardsmen go out on those beautiful animals. So I've been so pleased, so blessed to be here today instead of standing in the rain in Belfast.
Yeah, Doogie Beattie, and I've just got back from Texas, and it's hotter in Britain today than it is in Texas. There we go. Doogie Beattie, splendid stuff. Great to see you as ever, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Now, talking of which, if you are in search of some holiday sun, you could stay in Britain, but it probably won't last because it's Britain. So here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Well, the UK has the warm, sunny weather. There's more rain to come in Spain and Portugal. Fine conditions across much of Italy. A few showers across the eastern Mediterranean. Generally dry for the Canaries, but not particularly warm yet. Wet and windy weather sweeping into Portugal and across mainland Spain, although many of the southern costas of Spain dry and sunny. Certainly plenty of sunshine for Italy, Sardinia and Corsica. A few showers over Cyprus and Turkey. Temperatures will be rising in the Canaries over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, isn't it sending the wrong message to young workers who think that it would be all right to turn up drunk to work, or actually just ring up and say, I'm not coming in today because I'm drunk? That's no way to build a career, is it?
Well, I mean, this ensures that they don't turn up drunk to work because they can stay at home and have a line if they're feeling a bit worse for wear. But I think the point is it incentivizes people who, the reason the company did it was because they can't offer really high wages, so they have to offer any perks they can give. And this was one of them. And I think that if it makes life a bit easier, a bit more fun for young workers, then that's a good thing.
Dom, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's terrible. I've run a lot of companies. I've been in a situation where I've not had budget to hire people, and we didn't go to hangover leave. We went to offering things like gym membership, offering people things like therapy, offering positive things at work to be able to get them to enjoy where they work, not hangover leave. I think that's a bit desperate, well, very desperate. And to be honest, if you're running a company and someone wants to work at you because they want hangover leave, they're probably the wrong person to have in your organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Luca, isn't Gen Z supposed to be the generation that doesn't want to get drunk, that they're all for sort of healthy living and having mint tea instead of beer? Oh.
Well, some of us are, not all of us, don't worry. But there you go, all the more reason to do this. It can help with the nighttime economy. It can get people going back into pubs and bars and really boost that element of our economy. And as you say, many people won't want to take it anyway. It's an optional thing. It's not like you have to go out and get drunk every evening if your company has such a policy.
No, but what about having a responsible attitude to work?
The People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. It's 3:47 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day, the International Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln has unveiled a Lancaster bomber made from more than 20,000 poppies. Now, taking almost 2 years to construct, the display commemorates all those involved in the war effort from Britain and across the Commonwealth. Our reporter Jack Carson has this story.
It's a Lancaster, the mightiest aerial engine of destruction ever conceived and built.
It's one of the most recognisable sights of British aviation, and at the International Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln, the Avro Lancaster has been memorialised ahead of the 80th anniversary of VE Day. More than 22,000 handmade ceramic poppies have been planted to create the shape of the iconic plane, synonymous with Bomber County, and to represent all of those who are part of the war effort. Nikki Vanderdrift is the chief executive of the centre.
It's been an enormous amount of work. There's a lot of passion has gone into this, a lot of planning, but also excitement. I can't wait to see people's reactions to it. Whilst it's been in progress, visitors' comments have been amazing. A lot of them very emotional, a lot of them remembering individuals. For me, this is the individual story singing together in an orchestra of voices.
Also sculpted for the anniversaries this year are 617 poppies placed in the Spire Memorial to remember 617 Squadron, the Dam Busters. Chairman of the IBCC Air Chief Marshal Sir Michael Graydon says the display is a chance to remember and educate the younger generation.
It traces the history of war and the tragedy of war, but at the same time the importance of remembrance. So it's something that I think we've increasingly appreciated, the need for education. There's perhaps not enough of it in schools, and schools are now coming to us, so we're delighted to see them here.
In a special service, members of the UK, US, Canadian, Australian and New Zealand forces laid the final poppies in place before it was officially unveiled.
80 years on, we remember the courage, the loss,
for liberation.
Memories of VE Day and the contributions from across the Commonwealth wrap around the rest of the display. Deputy Lieutenant for Lincolnshire and co-lead for VE80 Lincoln, Sue Liebird MBE, describes the global effort of the Allied forces.
So we had countries from around the world, from Canada, from New Zealand, from India, from the Caribbean, from South Africa, from Africa. For me, the uniqueness of every single poppy is representative of the uniqueness of the huge collaboration and coalition that came together for us to have victory in Europe 80 years ago.
With each poppy able to be bought to raise money for charity, this display hopes to create a lasting legacy, remembering Bomber Command and beyond. Jack Carson, GB News, Lincoln.
And a Lancaster bomber will take part in the VE Day 80th flypast on Monday. You'll see that here on GB News. Now, Ireland's usually buzzing with visitors by spring at this time of year, but not this year, because the latest stats show a 15% dip in March tourist numbers, continuing a worrying downward trend with fewer travellers from Britain, the US and Europe, and spending also down. It's a tough season for Irish tourism. So, what's putting people off? Well, we're joined now by the president of the Irish Freedom Party, Herman Kelly. Herman, welcome to the show. So, it's a bad news for the tourist sector in Dublin. What's driving this trend?
Terrible, as you say. Spring has sprung, the grass is raised. I wonder where the tourist is. There's been a massive 15% fall in tourism in Ireland in 1 year alone. But it's surprising when over 1/3 of all the hotel beds in the country are taken up, booked by the government, footed by the taxpayer to put on people who claim to be asylum seekers all around the country. So when tourists come to Ireland, they find it virtually impossible to find a place to stay. And if they are lucky enough to find a place, it's extremely expensive.
And also, Herman, there have been reports of a lot of violence around Dublin. I believe a hair salon has been forced to close because of street trouble. We talk on the show often about the situation in Dublin. Is that also a factor, the feeling that tourists have been specifically targeted?
Yes, there's been occasions where American tourists have been killed in Dublin by asylum seekers. And like that woman, she closed her hair salon down, a beauty clinic in Dublin. It's in north central Dublin. Now, just last week on Saturday, I attended a huge rally against mass immigration right beside there. That she has her place in Dorset Street. Like there was could have been 15 or 20,000 people went past there last week to express their unease about the massive changes that have taken place in Ireland. But actually, exactly where she has her place, there are now she complained that there's so many foreign men just milling around her street all the time. It's become very, very unsafe. She opened the store there 4 years ago. There's now so many Somalians around Dorset Street that they actually call it Mogadishu. And it's really problematic. Central Dublin has become very, very, I'm sorry to say, has become very unsafe because the government has allowed so many huge number of unvetted males from all around the world to walk into our country, and hence violent crime has gone up, and criminality has gone up, and people are feeling less safe and less secure. And do you know what? We should be doing much better than this. Ireland's a beautiful country. Look at the people.
Yeah, well, you're top of that list, Herman Kelly. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. And mind now you go, stay safe out there. You know, Dublin's a fantastic, beautiful city full of attractions. But if people aren't feeling safe there, no wonder they're voting with their feet. Now, plenty more to come in the next hour, including all the latest reaction to the sporting transgender bans. That's right, biological men being kicked out of football, netball and cricket in England from next season. Is this a victory for common sense, or is it transphobia? That's next with me, Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel. But now it's time for your sensational weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's very warm out there, even hot in places. Sunny skies across England and Wales, but cooler, cloudier weather Spreading into Scotland and Northern Ireland for the rest of the day, along with a few showers because of this cold front. And this cold front separates the heat to the south with much fresher air coming in to the north. Now, the heat in the south could set off the odd shower or thunderstorm heading into the late afternoon, evening period. They'll linger across some central parts overnight. Otherwise, most places are dry with clear spells through the hours of darkness. And again, temperature contrast will be significant overnight. Low single figures possible in the north, even a touch of grass frost, but further south, another warm and muggy night in places. That leads us on to a bright start for most of us first thing Friday. Still some showers across the far north and northwest of Scotland, a cool breeze here, and plenty of cloud in the northwest of Scotland, but some decent sunny spells through Aberdeenshire, across Fife into the central belt. Northern Ireland also seeing bright skies first thing, but we've got this zone of cloud and a few showers dotted across parts of mid Wales into the Midlands, and cloudier skies certainly compared with the recent mornings for some southern and more especially southwestern counties of England. That'll tend to thin into the afternoon, and then plenty of sunny skies once again across England and Wales. Once more though, Northern Ireland, Scotland seeing largely cloudy conditions, although brightening up as the day progresses. A few showers in the far north of Scotland, but for most it's a dry afternoon, and it's still very warm in the south and southeast, 26, 27 Celsius, much fresher elsewhere. Could see the odd shower for some of these southern counties of England, but for the vast majority it's a dry and fine day because we've still got high pressure nearby. However, it's bringing winds in from a different direction, so mostly fine weather going into the bank holiday weekend, 1 or 2 showers, but temperatures dropping away.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Today the M4 is closed in both directions between Junction 22 at Pilning and Junction 23 due to resurfacing on the Prince of Wales Bridge with diversions in place. In Rutland, the A1 northbound between the junctions with the A606 and the A151 experiences delays from an earlier collision, with one lane closed. Meanwhile, a vehicle fire has caused all lanes to close on the M20 westbound between Junction 12 and Junction 11. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches and the dramatic fly past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of a very steamy Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, some breaking news in this past hour. Donald Trump's National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy Alex Wong will be leaving their posts. And that's according to sources close to the White House. Not the very latest on this breaking story. And what's been welcomed as a huge victory for women's rights and safety, the Football Association has decided to kick out trans women from all women's football from next season. And the move was swiftly followed by England netball, with the England and Wales Cricket Board also expected to stump the trans movement. Is this the beginning of the end of the trans movement? A controversial Irish rap act, Kneecap, are facing a counter-terror probe after they said kill your local MP and up Hamas, up Hezbollah at gigs, allegedly. Now, we'll have all the latest with our home and security editor, Mark White. And the US has signed a historic minerals deal with Ukraine. And could this long-awaited signing mean the end of the war in Ukraine? And that's all coming in your next hour. Well, it's the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Why did it take a Supreme Court ruling for so many people to make up their minds about the blatant and obvious truth that a trans woman who was born a biological man isn't in fact a woman and so therefore shouldn't be allowed to compete in female sport? People like Sharon Davis, the Olympic swimming legend, have been saying this for years. Martina Navratilova. Seems common sense has prevailed and football will now be kicking out trans athletes, trans competitors from female sports. The same in cricket and the same in netball. Donald Trump has waged war on the trans movement in America today, reaffirming that there'll be no place for trans people in the military and there'll be no place for trans politics in our schools. Do you support this latest breakthrough? Later in the show, I'll be speaking to a trans athlete to see what they say, a biological man who took part in the London Marathon in the women's section. That's all coming up with me, Martin Daubney. Get in touch usual way, gbnews.com/your say. But now it's your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Downing Street says biology matters following the FA's decision to ban transgender women from playing women's football in England from next season. It follows a similar move by the Scottish FA this week after a UK Supreme Court ruling in April found a female is defined by biological sex. The FA says it's always been ready to make necessary changes if there's a material change in the law, science or operation of the policy in grassroots football. Well, the FA amended its rules last month, applying stricter criteria for transgender women to continue playing, but that's now been scrapped and the ban will come into effect on June the 1st. Counter-terror officers at the Met Police have opened an investigation into the Irish rappers Kneecap. They've had several concerts cancelled recently after footage emerged that appears to show band members calling for the deaths of MPs, saying the only good Tory is a dead Tory. Another video appears to show a member shouting "Up Hamas, up Hezbollah." Now, both groups are banned in the UK. It's a crime to express support for them. Kneecap said in a statement earlier this week they rejected any suggestion that they would seek to incite violence against MPs. They added that the videos have been taken out of context. A number of artists, including Fontaine's DC, Massive Attack, Pulp and Paul Weller, have signed a joint statement in support of the Irish group. The White House says the US is taking an economic stake in securing a free, peaceful and sovereign future for Ukraine following the signing of a minerals deal between the countries. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says it will give the United States 50% of royalties, licence fees and other payments from natural resource projects in Ukraine. Now, Kyiv estimates around 5% of the world's critical raw minerals are in Ukraine, and that includes lithium and graphite used in batteries, titanium, and also uranium needed to make nuclear weapons. Well, the deal was announced by the US Treasury last night. It's understood the money raised through the investment fund will go towards military assistance and the reconstruction of Ukraine. The country's foreign minister says it's an important milestone in its partnership with the United States. The body of a teenager has been recovered from a lake in Nottinghamshire after reports of a 16-year-old boy who got into difficulty while swimming. A police underwater search team and the fire service also responded, finding the boy's body just before 8 o'clock last night. Police have confirmed the death is not being treated as suspicious, but it does come as many parts of the UK have experienced unusually hot weather. An Australian woman accused of killing her in-laws with a poisonous beef Wellington has admitted to picking wild mushrooms, but insists the tragedy was a terrible accident. Erin Patterson, who's pleaded not guilty to murdering her relatives, maintained she didn't intend to cause anyone any harm that day. Prosecutors, though, say she served the meal but ate from a separate, smaller and differently coloured plate than her 4 guests. Voters are heading to the polls today for the country's local elections. The fate of 23 local authorities, 6 mayoral seats and the first by-election of this parliament will hang in the balance. Voting closes at 10 o'clock tonight, and you can stay with GB News a bit later on for coverage overnight. That's been confirmed as the warmest start to May on record in the UK. Today, 28 degrees has been recorded at Kew Gardens in southwest London, beating the previous record for May. That was recorded in Scotland in 1990, 27.4 degrees on the 1st of May on that occasion. Despite the soaring temperatures, though, the Met Office has ruled out a heat wave later this week. And His Majesty the King has reflected on his experiences with cancer as he hosted representatives from community-based cancer organisations and initiatives at Buckingham Palace last night. The King, alongside Queen Camilla, has thanked those who support cancer patients and their loved ones. He praised the profound impact of human connection offered by those working in the sector. His Majesty said each new cancer diagnosis is daunting and frightening for those individuals and their families, but he went on to quote the late Dame Deborah James, who always encouraged people to have rebellious hope. Those are your latest headlines. More at 4:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now we start this hour with some breaking news for you, and it's this. Donald Trump's National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy Alex Wong will be leaving their posts, and that's according to sources close to the White House. This is a huge story. Let's join our GB News' Homeland Security Editor Mark White now to discuss it. Mark, Mr. Waltz in particular was seen as a huge asset to the Trump regime, a no-nonsense immigration control expert, and now they're leaving their posts. What's happening?
Yeah, former Special Forces officer, highly regarded, but he is now the most high-profile first casualty of the Trump administration. And as you say, Alex Wong, his deputy, going along with him. Now, this follows controversy that many people remember about a Signal chat that took place on that app system that included a high-profile journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, from The Atlantic, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, a left-leaning publication, not at all popular with the Trump administration, but he was included in this Signal chat that went into extraordinary detail about an upcoming mission, a bombing mission in Yemen against the Houthi rebels in that country. And after that raid took place, then Jeffrey Goldberg published his story in The Atlantic. We know, of course, there was an almighty row with Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary, denying that Jeffrey Goldberg's account was accurate, that there was no aircraft types and weapon payloads codes and targeting that was discussed. And that then resulted in Jeffrey Goldberg putting out another exclusive article in which he did detail some of the things that Pete Hegseth was saying was not the case. So as a result of all of that, which caused, there is no doubt, the President and the Trump administration not just a little embarrassment, we have now got to the stage where it seems, according to CBS, the US news broadcaster, that Mike Waltz will be leaving his post. And I think the timing is key to this as well. Clearly, President Trump did not want to get rid of Mike Waltz at the time that this issue was exploding in the national press in America and indeed all around the world. So we've got to that sort of key marker point of 100 days in office being celebrated by the President and his administration, and then just a day after that, the news filtering through from Mike Waltz. I say the news is filtering through. The Trump administration still have not, as far as I know, unless anything has come through to you, Martin, have not commented publicly on the CBS story.
No, we are expecting Donald Trump actually to speak at an event in a short while. Maybe undeniably he'll be questioned on this by the media. Mark White, critics will seize upon this as signs of anarchy, of inevitable splits in the Trump camp. But of course, reporters will say this is tough leadership. This story being leaked, the definition of loose lips, sink ships, and The Atlantic, of course, a media outlet known for its hostility towards Donald Trump historically. Where do you think this sits? Is this signs of anarchy, or is it actually Trump saying, if you don't play by the rules, you're a goner?
Well, it's a bump in the road. There's no doubt about it. And it was very uncomfortable and embarrassing for the Trump administration at the time. But, you know, all administrations go through this kind of issue from time to time. And you see it in any government around the world where members of that particular government will be let loose or will go because of one thing or another. So I don't think there's anything that unusual in what we're witnessing here. I think what was important clearly from President Trump's standpoint, he did not want to bow to the media pressure and the feeding frenzy that there was at the time. And it was an almighty feeding frenzy that really went on in the American media even more for even longer than it did when it died down over here, with calls for key members of the administration to lose their job over this. Well, President Trump, it seems, has followed through on that, but at a time of his particular choosing. I'm in no doubt that Donald Trump, when he speaks today, if he addresses this issue, will be, you know, very effusive about Mike Waltz, someone who clearly he has a great deal of respect for, but in the politics of the day, the National Security Advisor is leaving office.
And as you say, you know, politics is all about timing, and a day to bury bad news is perhaps today, Mark White, with this historic Ukraine minerals deal being signed. We'll have much more on this story as those details emerge. Mark White, thank you very much for the news there. Mike Waltz and his deputy Alex Wong are leaving their posts in the Trump regime. Thank you, Mark White. Now back to domestic football, and that is this. The Football Association has announced that transgender women will no longer be able to play in women's football from June the 1st this year. Now, the governing body stated that while its goal is to make football as inclusive as possible, its policy has always been subject to change in response to shifts in law or science. Well, following the move from the FA, England Netball announced a ban also, whilst the England and Wales Cricket Board are expected to formally follow suit tomorrow. Well, we can now speak with the Scottish sports journalist Heather Dewar. Heather, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. Some people are saying this is a victory for common sense, victory for women's equality, and a victory for women's safety. Other people fear it's transphobic. Heather, what's your take?
I think it is absolutely a victory for common sense. I don't think it's transphobic at all. I mean, at the end of the day, sport comes down to equality and it comes down to safety. And part of that equality, the very notion of that in sport, is extremely important. And it is about fairness and safety. For me personally, they've been weak on this. I think they've taken far too long to make a move. We look at rugby, for example, swimming, athletics, cycling, they've all made a move. There's a reason that they've done that, and that's due to fairness, because we've seen competitors in the past winning certain sports. We look at contact sports such as rugby, which, let's face it, can be extremely dangerous. Football is also a contact sport, so I'm quite flummoxed actually by why it's taken them quite so long to do this. And it's interesting also that the FA have announced this off the back of a revelation a couple of days ago that the Scottish Football Association would be looking to ban transgender women from the start of next season. So there was a policy change on April the 11th, which had stricter eligibility rules, but they weren't clear cut. And Martin, this is the key thing about sport. You have to be clear cut. It's far too wishy-washy, the rules that we've seen in place so far. It's kowtowing to an agenda and to a very vocal but small minority. When you look at the number of professional trans women who actually play in sport, it's absolutely minuscule. I mean, there have been around 30 female trans women players, for example, in the English amateur setup, none in the professional setup at all. In Scotland, there have been none in the leagues. So what we need now is absolute clarity, and this puts us in the right direction to do so.
Heather, why has it taken a change of law by the Supreme Court for football associations, for cricket boards, netball, to realise what a toddler can tell them, and that is a biological woman is a woman? No, you can't change that. You can say you can live a peaceful life, and all of us will wish a peaceful and prosperous life for anybody, irrespective of their gender or anything. But, as you said, this is about safety. Do you think that the Supreme Law ruling was one thing, but also the Olympics, Heather, when we saw biological men battering biological women, it just makes people wake up to the fact this is unfair, it's cruel, and it needs to stop?
Well, I think actually the Olympics is an interesting one. So it'll be really interesting to see what the IOC do moving forward for LA, because obviously you're talking about Imani Khalif, who was the main controversy when she was competing. Now, we still don't know what the exact situation is with her sex. There have been rumours about whether she is a DSD. Obviously, she was born biologically female, according to what we understand. But this is where you will have problems moving forward. So we look at Caster Semenya, for example, or if we look at other athletes who've been born biologically female, what do you do as a sport moving forward? So that is a question that's not going to go away. And then there are other issues, actually, when you look at the kind of more domestic setup. I understand, for example, that within Scottish women's football, there have actually been a rise in complaints about women, so biological women, that look like men. So, it's kind of swings and roundabouts, and it's affecting both sides. What they need to do now is they need to have open conversations with the transgender community that look at ways of working together. I understand that the Scottish Football Association is looking to do that. They want them to come to the table. They want to have those conversations. So the FA needs to do exactly the same. But you asked the question, why is it taken so long? And you mentioned Sharon Davis earlier, and she does deserve praise for her constant campaigning on this. She's been a real voice of authority on this, and she has skin in the game because she's a professional athlete, or was a professional athlete. She knows what it's like to compete against other women. She was a very, very good swimmer. She's seen for herself the safety, and she's spoken a lot about the biology behind it as well. But the problem is that the voices have been very, very minor in this whole debate. I think that people have been swept away. They've been too scared. They've thought that we're going to be called transphobic if we call people out. So what they've done is they've stayed silent. And unfortunately, what we've seen with many sports organisations is that they've tied themselves in knots, trying to be everything to everybody, trying to please everyone. You can't do that. And I'll give you a couple of examples of why it's really necessary that in sport you have clear-cut rules. So, for example, in the racism and Scottish cricket scandal, out of all the hundreds of allegations or examples of institutional racism, how many do you think actually were charged with that? None, zero. So when they went to a referrals process, the reason they couldn't charge them was because the jurisdiction was not in place at the time, or the policies weren't in place at the time. So that's all down to policies and procedures within the organisation. Now, what did that cost? That cost almost £1 million of taxpayers' money. And then you look at the head injuries case against the rugby authorities, you know, so the RFU and also the Irish Rugby Football Union and World Rugby as well. And why are we seeing that now? Because we're looking at historic cases of head injuries. What the likes of the FA and other organisations moving forward can't have is situations where you historically, you know, you have problems moving forward with, I don't know, potential injuries and safety with transgender women. And then historically there are issues.
We have to leave it there. You're a font of knowledge. Excellent guest. Please come back on the show again anytime. Heather Dewar, Scottish sports journalist. Superb. Now, moving on, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now. And it's our biggest prize to date and one that I'd like to win. Your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you'd like. And your very own 4-berth motorhome worth a whopping 67 grand. And here's the details you need to enter.
We want you to win our biggest prize package to date. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This 2025 home from home comes with plenty of space for the family, sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom areas, and all of the luxury you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Plus, you'll also get an additional £5,000 in tax-free cash from us to make sure your new motorhome is completely kitted out and ready for your next adventure. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, coming up, Ukraine and the United States have signed a long-awaited minerals deal. Could this be a crucial first step in ending the war in Ukraine? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Today, voters across England go to the polls.
In a series of council elections,
mayoral elections, and one crucial by-election.
They'll vote on the local issues that matter to them and let the parties know where they stand.
We'll be here throughout the night.
Live around the country.
As the first results come in.
And from 6 a.m, as it all becomes clearer, we'll be here to discuss what it means for you.
Vote 2025, the people decide, from 11 p.m. tonight.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.
It's VE Day. We're going to be here at Buckingham Palace from dawn till dusk and at street parties all across the country.
Join us for the pomp, the pageantry, the marches, and the dramatic fly past.
A day when we can all feel proud to be British. VE Day all day Monday and throughout next week. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Today, voters across England go to the polls.
In a series of council elections.
Mayoral elections and one crucial by-election.
They'll vote on the local issues that matter to them and let the parties know where they stand.
We'll be here throughout the night.
Live around the country.
As the first results come in.
And from 6 a.m, as it all becomes clearer, we'll be here to discuss what it means for you.
Vote 2025, the people decide, from 11 p.m. tonight.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Yeah, make sure to tune in for GB News' local elections coverage from 10 p.m. It's going to be superb. Now then, welcome back with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. And to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day, the International Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln has unveiled a Lancaster bomber made from more than 20,000 poppies. Taking almost 2 years to construct, this superb display commemorates all of those involved in the war effort from Britain and, of course, across the Commonwealth. Our reporter Jack Carson has this story.
It's a Lancaster, the mightiest aerial engine of destruction ever conceived and built.
It's one of the most recognisable sights of British aviation, and at the International Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln, the Avro Lancaster has been memorialised ahead of the 80th anniversary of VE Day. More than 22,000 handmade ceramic poppies have been planted to create the shape of the iconic plane, synonymous with Bomber County, and to represent all of those who are part of the war effort. Nikki Vanderdrift is the chief executive of the centre.
It's been an enormous amount of work. There's a lot of passion has gone into this, a lot of planning, but also excitement. I can't wait to see people's reactions to it. Whilst it's been in progress, visitors' comments have been amazing. A lot of them very emotional, a lot of them remembering individuals. For me, this is the individual story singing together in an orchestra of voices.
Also sculpted for the anniversaries this year are 617 poppies placed in the Spire Memorial to remember 617 Squadron, the Dam Busters. Chairman of the IBCC Air Chief Marshal Sir Michael Graydon says the display is a chance to remember and educate the younger generation.
It traces the history of war and the tragedy of war, but at the same time the importance of remembrance. So it's something that I think we've increasingly appreciated, the need for education. There's perhaps not enough of it in schools, and schools are now coming to us, so we're delighted to see them here.
In a special service, members of the UK, US, Canadian, Australian and New Zealand forces laid the final poppies in place before it was officially unveiled.
80 years on, we remember the courage, the loss, the liberation.
Memories of VE Day and the contributions from across the Commonwealth wrap around the rest of the display. Deputy Lieutenant for Lincolnshire and co-lead for VE80 Lincoln, Sue Liebird MBE, describes the global effort of the Allied forces.
So we had countries from around the world, from Canada, from New Zealand, from India, from the Caribbean, from South Africa, from Africa. For me, the uniqueness of every single poppy is representative of the uniqueness of the huge collaboration and coalition that came together for us to have victory in Europe 80 years ago.
With each poppy able to be bought to raise money for charity, this display hopes to create a lasting legacy, remembering Bomber Command and beyond. Jack Carson, GB News, Lincoln.
Superb. And a reminder that there will be a Lancaster bomber at the VE Day 80th anniversary flypast on Monday. That will be live here on GB News. Now, I've got some breaking news for you. Let's go live now to the US. President Donald Trump, who's at a National Day of Prayer event. at the White House. Donald Trump expected to address the nation shortly. We'll cross back to that when it happens. But of course, he will be asked by the media undeniably about a significant announcement a short while ago. The breaking news that Mike Waltz, Donald Trump's national security advisor, and his deputy, Alex Wong, will be leaving their posts with immediate effect. That follows, of course, that embarrassing WhatsApp leak about surveillance and confidential information leaked out about military procedures, Houthi rebels. That was leaked to The Atlantic, a media outlet known for its historic kind of lack of empathy with the Trump regime. That's been dealt with on a day where there's potentially it's a good day to bury bad news, because of course today also the announcement of that huge deal, the minerals deal between the United States and Ukraine, seen as a significant step in ending the war in Ukraine, a step towards peace. Donald Trump expected there to speak at a National Day of Prayer event at the White House, and we'll cross to that live as it happens. As I say, loads of questions no doubt going to come in about that parting of company of Mike Waltz and Alex Wong. Will it be portrayed as typical of the anarchy within the Trump regime by his critics, or will it be portrayed as strong leadership and clamping down on somebody who's leaking information to the media around security issues which cannot and will not be tolerated by the Trump regime? More on that coming live as the President of the US appears. Donald Trump, a short while ago, announced that he's parting company with Waltz and Wong, soon to speak at the White House. And we'll cross back to that live when it happens. A lot more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including the Met Office has confirmed that today is the warmest start to May on record in the UK. After a temperature of 28 degrees, we'll be around the country to find out how the public are coping under the strain. But first, here's your headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Transgender women will no longer be able to play in women's football from the 1st of June. The FA amended its rules on the 11th of April, applying stricter criteria for transgender women to continue playing at all levels, but that's now been scrapped, with the new policy stipulating only those born biologically female will be permitted to play. It mirrors a decision made in Scotland this week and follows last month's ruling in the Supreme Court that found the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. Downing Street says it will support governing bodies to protect the integrity, safety and fairness of sport. Counter-terrorist officers at the Metropolitan Police have opened an investigation into the Irish rapper's kneecap. They've had several concerts cancelled after footage emerged that appeared to show band members calling for the deaths of MPs. Another video appeared to show a member shouting, "Up Hamas, up Hezbollah." Both groups are banned in the UK. It is a crime to express support for them. Well, Kneecap said in a statement earlier this week they rejected any suggestion that they would seek to incite violence against MPs, and they say the videos have been taken out of context. A number of artists, including Annie Mac, Bicep, Massive Attack and Paul Weller, have signed a joint statement in support of the Irish group. The White House says the minerals deal signed last night with Ukraine will help secure a free, peaceful and sovereign country sovereign future for the country. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says it will give the US 50% of royalties, licence fees and other payments from natural resources in Ukraine. Kyiv estimates around 5% of the world's critical materials are in the country, including lithium and graphite used in batteries, and also uranium needed for nuclear weapons. The deal was announced by the US Treasury last night. It's understood at least some of the money raised will go towards military assistance and the reconstruction of Ukraine. Its foreign minister says it's an important milestone in its partnership with the United States. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, has left his post in the White House. Waltz, who was one of Trump's first appointments, is the first high-profile official to leave the administration. Now, he's been under pressure ever since it was revealed he inadvertently added a journalist to a signal group in which sensitive military strikes in Yemen were shared. Waltz said he'd take full responsibility for the security leak. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 5 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.32 and €1.78. The price of gold, £2,421.70 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is currently trading at 8,502 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's very warm out there, even hot in places. Sunny skies across England and Wales, but cooler, cloudier weather spreading into Scotland and Northern Ireland for the rest of the day, along with a few showers because of this cold front. And this cold front separates the heat to the south with much fresher air coming in to the north. Now, the heat in the south could set off the odd shower or thunderstorm heading into the late afternoon, evening period. They'll linger across some central parts overnight. Otherwise, most places are dry with clear spells through the hours of darkness. And again, temperature contrast will be significant overnight. Low single figures possible in the north, even a touch of grass frost, but further south, another warm and muggy night in places. That leads us on to a bright start for most of us first thing Friday. Still some showers across the far north and northwest of Scotland, a cool breeze here, and plenty of cloud in the northwest of Scotland, but some decent sunny spells through Aberdeenshire, across Fife into the central belt. Northern Ireland also seeing bright skies first thing, but we've got this zone of cloud and a few showers dotted across parts of Mid Wales into the Midlands, and cloudier skies certainly compared with the recent mornings for some southern and more especially southwestern counties of England. That will tend to thin into the afternoon, and then plenty of sunny skies once again across England and Wales. Once more, though, Northern Ireland, Scotland seeing largely cloudy conditions, although brightening up as the day progresses. A few showers in the far north of Scotland, but for most, it's a dry afternoon, and it's still very warm in the south and southeast, 26, 27 Celsius, much fresher elsewhere. Could see the odd shower for some of these southern counties of England, but for the vast majority, it's a dry and fine day because we've still got high pressure nearby. However, it's bringing winds in from a different direction, so mostly fine weather going into the bank holiday weekend, one or two showers, but temperatures dropping away.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. A broken down vehicle affects the northbound carriageway of the Erskine Bridge. Motorists should approach with caution. On the M20 in Kent, a vehicle fire between junctions 12 and 11 has closed all westbound lanes. Diversions are in effect. Resurfacing has shut down the Prince of Wales Bridge on the M4 between junctions 22, Pilning and 23 Rogier, with detours available. South Gloucestershire's M4 westbound from junction 19 to 20 is experiencing congestion, causing a 10-minute delay. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Time is 4:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Ukraine has struck a deal with the United States after an Oval Office clash put it on hold. The long-awaited US-Ukraine minerals deal has now been signed. Ukrainian advisors say its natural resources deal with the US will hopefully lead to the establishment of lasting, enduring and just peace. Let's now speak with the business and finance commentator, Ian King. Ian, a pleasure to have you on the show. What an excellent journalist you are. Let's talk about the detail of this in terms of its business acumen. A lot of people saying this is a carve-up, the spoils of war, but Ukraine could benefit from this because, of course, now it seems to open a deal with the United States being able to sell them arms to rearm the country. What's your take?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Martin. And it's worth pointing out that actually this deal has already unlocked military aid to Ukraine. On the back of this, the White House has announced that there will be military assistance provided. That's the first time Donald Trump has done that since he was president. Now, it looks as if Ukraine has actually got quite a good deal compared with what was initially mooted. If you recall, prior to that White House bust-up, Donald Trump was looking for Ukraine to repay the United States for military assistance rendered thus far. There's nothing in the agreement about that. Obviously, some of the revenues going forward will, it looks like, pay America for military assistance going forward. But that looks to be a major concession from Donald Trump to the Ukrainians. So I think they'll be quite pleased about that. In terms of what both sides get out of it, well, potentially it's very exciting indeed. Obviously, there's oil and gas deposits in Ukraine. There's a lot of iron ore in Ukraine, non-ferrous metals as well. But I think the real prize, as Donald Trump will see it, is in what's known as rare earth metals. Now, these are 17 metals, parts of the periodic table, probably the best known one of which is titanium, but you've also got lanthanum, strontium, tantalum. And the reason that they're called rare earths, by the way, is not necessarily because they are rare. They are actually quite plentiful around the world, but they're quite difficult to extract from the Earth's crust, and that's why they're called rare earths. Now, this is the real question. We don't know how long it will take to extract a lot of these minerals once this agreement is up and running. Building a mine takes the best part of a decade at least, and as I say, these minerals are quite difficult to extract, so you could be potentially talking about even longer than that. And the other thing is, we don't really know how accurate the geological surveys of a lot of these deposits are, because a lot of the surveys date back to Soviet times. So in some cases, the deposits may not be there to the extent that either Ukraine or the United States may be bargaining. But as far as Donald Trump is concerned, this is absolutely vital. These rare earth metals are important. They have all sorts of applications in engineering. Just about every device in every viewer's household will contain some of these elements, whether it's in your mobile phone or in your earpods or in lighting, X-ray devices, tooth crowns. I mean, these elements are found literally everywhere. They have dozens and dozens of industrial applications. And what the US is concerned about is that over the last decade or so, China has been cornering the market in rare earths. A lot of these deposits, whilst they're plentiful in Ukraine, they're equally largely found in places like China and Latin America. And China has been doing its best to sort of corner the market in a lot of these elements. It's been doing deals all over Africa to obtain natural resources there. And the US is concerned about this and obviously wants access to its own supplies of these metals. So that is what this agreement potentially brings to the United States. That's what they're interested in. But as I say, there's an awful lot of hurdles to go before any metals will be extracted. And don't forget, by the way, there's no detail in terms of the finances on what this is going to be involving. We don't know how much money this will unlock for this joint US-Ukrainian reconstruction fund. And that is one of many, many questions that's raised by this.
And Ian King, just to highlight to our viewers and listeners, we're seeing live pictures now on the screen from the White House. Donald Trump expected to address the nation at a National Day of Prayer event. We'll go to that as it happens. But Ian, as I have you here, also the strategic interest, you're exactly right to point out that China took over a huge portion of the world's rare earth minerals, without firing a shot through its territorial expansionism into Africa and places like that. So as well as the financial element here, there's a huge geopolitical asset in taking control of these rare earth minerals in Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely right. Another big question, though, is how easily America is going to access. It's about a fifth of Ukraine's mineral and metal deposits are in land currently occupied by the Russians. And so is that going to be included in this? The Russians aren't going to cede that territory easily, obviously. So that immediately is a big chunk of deposits that America and the Ukrainians will not be able to get their hands on as things stand. The cost of that, the value of those deposits, by the way, has been put at something like $280 billion. So it's a non-trivial sum of money there. But as I say, the prize for this is pretty immense if America and Ukraine can get this off the ground. About a third of Europe's lithium deposits, for example, are found in Ukraine. Again, a very, very important element. It's been growing in importance over recent decades. Lithium is a key element in electric vehicle batteries, for example. So that's one of the main industrial applications there. Titanium, which I mentioned just now, obviously a key component in strengthening materials in alloys. Well, Ukraine has something like 7% of the world's titanium deposits there. So there are really, really big advantages if they can get this agreement off the ground.
Superb stuff. Ian King, an absolute pleasure to have your expertise on the show. Huge fan of your journalistic output. Thank you very, very much. Business and finance commentator Ian King, thank you very, very much. Now, just to recap, we have live pictures on our screen there. That is the White House. Donald Trump expected to address the nation shortly at a National Day of Prayer event. And of course, the media will be amassed, as you can see, already putting their hands up to try and get in the pecking order for a question, because a huge amount to talk about today. Not only that minerals deal there I just discussed with Ian King and the implications, what that means for peace in the world, peace in Europe. What was spoken about between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin at the Pope's funeral? Was that a talismanic moment in this historic deal? And, of course, the breaking news in the last hour, and that is Donald Trump's National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, and his deputy, Alex Wong, have departed company from the White House regime due to, of course, that Signal, WhatsApp Signal media group, social media group, where vital strategic information was leaked to a hostile journalist on the Atlantic. Donald Trump has come down like a ton of bricks, it seems, on that. So, yeah, Donald Trump expected to talk shortly. And as I just said, a lot of people will be saying this is typical. As they said when news came out that Elon Musk was departing the Trump regime, that, of course, was factored in. He always said it was going to be a temporary arrangement. But nevertheless, the media leapt in saying this is signs of anarchy in the Trump camp. But the Waltz-Wong departure might be seen actually as strong leadership. We'll cross back to that live as Donald Trump, the president of the USA, turns up. Now, meanwhile, if you're in search of some holiday sun, even though it's scorching in Britain today, it's probably going to be raining tomorrow because it's Britain. Then here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Well, the UK has the warm, sunny weather. There's more rain to come in Spain and Portugal. Fine conditions across much of Italy. A few showers across the eastern Mediterranean. Generally dry for the Canaries, but not particularly warm yet. Wet and windy weather sweeping into Portugal and across mainland Spain, although many of the southern costas of Spain dry and sunny. Certainly plenty of sunshine for Italy, Sardinia and Corsica. A few showers over Cyprus and Turkey. Temperatures will be rising in the Canaries over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Do you know that Gladiators is the TV show most likely to get you thinking about moving, about exercising?
Well, who better to talk to us about than Gladiator and Olympian Montel Douglas. Good to see you this morning, Montel.
What way does Gladiators work in getting people to move?
I think Gladiators spans all generations, which is one of the things that I love the most. You know, we have everyone from 2-year-olds doing our moves and feeling like superhuman, all the way up to, 90s, 100, people saying that they're really inspired to start moving, to start thinking differently about their health in a range of different things, but also just to think that, why can't I do it? And everyone's got a story, everyone's journey, their strength journey is very, very different. Mine's been very different, like I said, from summer to winter into Gladiators.
even that was a massive shift. So I think it's just inspiring people to think that they can do it.
Montel, what if I just hit upon that area about can't do? I'm in a position where I can't do a lot of things now. I regard watching Countryfile on a Sunday night as huge exercise for me. What if you just believe you can't do anything?
I'm really sad that you said that, Eamon. You can do whatever you're... the thing is, as well, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right. And I always say, try. I think many of us, the first time I climbed up of a wall doing Gladiators, I'm petrified of heights, and people know that. And you will never know that now because I went on there and, I got frightened, I was brave, and then kept on doing it. And I think the hardest thing is to start. And what I hope is that, we're inspiring people to start something that they never thought, because you don't know until you try. And then also, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as you just make that first move, you can get better. And then you'll feel braver when you do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney. Now let's go live now to the US, where Donald Trump is about to speak at a National Day of Prayer event at the White House. What is the National Day of Prayer, you might say? Well, in one sense, it does what it says on the tin. The National Day of Prayer calls of people of all different faiths in the United States to pray for the nation and its leaders. Historically, it's always held on the first Thursday of May every year. And the president is asking people to turn to God in prayer and in meditation. Donald Trump will sign a proclamation encouraging all Americans to pray on this day. So a day of coming together for all faiths in America. But of course, as is always the way at these events, the media will be gathered. You can see them already there in huge anticipation because there is a huge amount to talk about today in America. In this past hour, we've learned that Donald Trump's National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, and his deputy, Alex Wong, have departed company from the White House. Now, this, of course, is after that embarrassing leak of confidential military strategic information on a Signal social media group. Included on that group, we don't know who made the mistake, but was a journalist from The Atlantic. The Atlantic, if you know your media politics, is an outlet historically very hostile to the Trump regime. There were calls for their heads at the time. That didn't happen. Donald Trump stuck by his man. Today, though, might be a good day to bury some bad news because also in the news cycle, of course, is this huge and historic deal with Ukraine on minerals expected to unleash billions of dollars worth of rare earth minerals needed in the construction of practically everything we deem to be precious these days. Lithium for batteries, for mobile phones, titanium for construction, for strengthening. So huge deal being done, and the media will no doubt be curious as to what was exchanged between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican for the funeral of the Pope, a meeting that nobody overheard. What was said? The tide seemed to turn, remember, from that disastrous car crash of a news conference at the Oval Office when Volodymyr Zelensky had that huge bust-up, that hugely public bust-up with Donald Trump, but the tide changed and history has changed as a consequence. The media will talk about that. But I suspect they'll be barraging Donald Trump with questions about this departure of ways from Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, and Alex Wong. Critics of the Trump regime will say, no doubt, this kind of anarchy was always going to be on the agenda with the Trump regime, just as they said when Elon Musk announced he was stepping down from the Trump regime, despite the fact he had already said his appointment would only be short-term. It was seized upon by the media as signs of the fragility of the huge egos brushing up against each other in Trump's regime. Donald Trump and his supporters, however, would no doubt concur that this is a sign of strong leadership, that Mike Waltz and Alex Wong embarrassing the president in this manner, compromising national security so publicly, so blatantly, then it was only going to be a one-way ticket to a P45 perhaps, because you cannot do that to the Trump regime without there being consequences. They would say it is strong leadership. But of course, they would say on the other side, this is signs of the anarchy. And these events now are becoming ritualistic in their output. First, we have the specific event, be that a meeting with a world leader, be that an event such as this, the National Day of Prayer. But of course, the interesting bit is always in the subsequent questioning, because the media will be grilling Donald Trump on a variety of matters. Let's go now to our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, the media will be waiting, will be queuing to cross-examine Donald Trump. There's never a dull day in American politics, no matter what you're standing, Mark White.
No, and these regular press events now from Donald Trump, daily press events, have become a sort of must-see event, because you just never know what the Donald is going to come out with, especially, of course, if there are those representative of media outlets that he does not see as particularly friendly or indeed honest, the fake news, as he likes to sort of categorise them as. So if they get under his skin, you never know what he's going to say. But in the first instance, of course, it's a national day of prayer. So I'm sure he will be very respectful of that. He will do the ceremonials with regard to that event. It's afterwards, of course, when the questions start coming his way. And everybody wants to know, what is the issue with Mike Waltz? Has he been fired, as it seems like he has? And does that mean that the president actually stands... I know it was him that had organised, apparently, the Signal chat, just to remind our viewers and our listeners that the Signal chat related to some senior administration officials, of course, including Mike Waltz, and also the Defence Secretary, the Secretary of State, in discussions about an upcoming bombing raid on the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. But included on that mailing list for the Signal chat was Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, and that was deeply embarrassing for the administration when that article was then published by the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, telling about how he was inadvertently included on that group chat. And that really, as a huge row in America, rumbled on for many days, with people calling for Mike Waltz to go, but not just Mike Waltz, also calling on Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary, to go as well, claiming that, you know, the kind of information that he revealed on a Signal chat, not a properly secure chat group, was clearly in breach of national security rules, and, you know, put national security in jeopardy, not least, of course, those servicemen and women who were taking part in the operation in Yemen as well. And it will be interesting to see what happens, because, as I say, Mike Waltz obviously was the one that included Jeffrey Goldberg in that chat on the Signal group, but Pete Hegseth has been very significantly criticised, and criticised subsequently as well, with revelations about another chat group that he has included with members of his family, talking on issues that are sensitive as well. So a lot of heat still around the US Defense Secretary, and it remains to be seen what his future role in the administration will be. As I say, we still need the Trump administration, the president himself, perhaps, to confirm that Mike Waltz is on his way out.
Just a reminder there to those tuning in, live pictures there from the White House. Donald Trump expected to address the nation shortly on a National Day of Prayer event that is designed to support people and encourage people of all faiths to pray on this day. It's the first Thursday of May each year to bring the nation together. But as Mark White says there, the real event on these moments are the questioning afterwards. And just a quick tip of the cap to our caption writer there, putting in the last waltz about Mike Waltz departing from the White House. The National Security Advisor Alex Wong also go. Maybe he messed with the Wong man. I digress. The fact of the matter is, Mark White, people will also be asking about this Ukraine minerals deal, a significant deal and a changing of rhetoric. This document, we believe, has been leaked, saying that it was, in fact, a full-scale invasion by Vladimir Putin into Ukraine and making concessions on supplying arms, selling arms back to Ukraine in exchange for minerals, rockets for rocks, you might call it. That might wrong foot Donald Trump's media critics, Mark White.
Yes, it might do. I'm so glad, I really am, that you are not in charge of our graphic writing here at GB News. We'll leave that to the producers. But yes, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, it seems that from Ukraine's point of view, they've got not a bad deal out of this, from clearly being very reticent about embarking on this deal to begin with, because there was so much in the way of talk, wasn't there, about reparations that President Trump was looking for in terms of the money, $350 billion he put it at, but it's been widely disputed, and many people suggesting that it was nearer 120 billion, the money that the US has given to Ukraine in its war effort. Regardless, 350, 120, 120 billion, I should say, is a very significant number indeed. And President Trump had been saying for quite some considerable time, in multiple sort of occasions where he would be asked questions, that he wanted that money back and that they were not getting a fair shake of the stick in the US, because he claimed that many European nations had loaned Ukraine money that they would get back. That has since been disputed, of course, by the likes of the European Union. But regardless, I think from Ukraine's point of view, the information that's coming out about this minerals deal with the US would seem to suggest that there is no back payment required, but going forward in terms of money that the US might give to Ukraine, both for the regeneration, reconstruction of Ukraine after this horrific war, but also in helping the military effort in Ukraine, will come from this agreement and this deal, rather than necessarily direct funding from the US that is to Ukraine for this effort alone. It will come as a result once this deal is up and running from that particular pot. So it seems, as I say, from Ukraine's point of view, that it is a deal that they can live with, hence the reason that Volodymyr Zelensky has agreed to sign that deal. And it's a major coup, there is no doubt, for the Trump administration as well. They want to be able to get into Ukraine and to be able to mine many of the sort of rare earth minerals that there are in that country that are so vital in modern day components.
And Mark, just a reminder to our viewers and listeners, live pictures on the screen now from the White House. Donald Trump expected imminently to address the nation on a National Day of Prayer event. But of course, the real fun usually starts after these events. And Mark White, part of this almost Pavlovian cycle now is the anticipation, the build-up. We get the event, and then we know the juicy questions will come at the end. And Mark White, something else that leapt out at me earlier was potentially in this deal, this minerals deal with the Ukraine, that apparently the United States won't use this deal to block Ukraine's bid to join the European Union. Now, Mark, that will get lots of antennae twitching across the European continent, in Brussels and back here in Britain, because Ukraine joining the EU is a significant problem for Vladimir Putin and a significant problem potentially for the European Union. The Ukraine can't satisfy the entry criteria. It's a war-torn country. It's a nation that has corruption, but a significant political development there, almost sneaked under the radar.
Yeah, listen, there's been a lot of sort of briefing of what we are supposed to take from this deal, what is being offered to Ukraine. A lot of briefing that is filtering out. Let's see how much of that actually stands up to closer scrutiny at the end of the day and how much of it is actually true. It certainly would be true, I think, to suggest, because we can see it in some of the rhetoric coming from Donald Trump and his administration towards Russia, that there is definitely a sort of you can either describe it as a cooling in terms of the sort of the warmth towards Russia, or actually heating up of the rhetoric, maybe a more apt expression, in terms of wanting Russia to do more and to do more quickly, with a view to signing up to a ceasefire, and then get the detail of that sorted at some time in the future. I think we may be seeing Donald Trump coming out of the White House now.
Indeed, we are. Donald Trump now set to address the nation at a National Day of Prayer event. We can see there magnificent surroundings at the White House. Here's Donald Trump.
Well, good morning. This is a beautiful day. We could not have asked for a more beautiful day than this. And maybe that means something, that brings us a little luck. But it's a great honor, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this very special place, the White House, to celebrate the annual National Day of Prayer. And we're doing it up big. This is the first time they've done it this way, and you deserve it. We all deserve the White House. The White House is special. We're bringing back religion in our country, and we're bringing it back quickly and strongly. Because for America to be a great nation, we must always be one nation under God, a phrase that they would like to get rid of, the radical left. But Ben, I don't think we're going to let them get rid of that, right? We're not letting them get rid of that. I want to thank a man of incredible faith who's with us, Speaker Mike Johnson, for being here. He's done an incredible job. Thank you, Mike, very much. We're working very hard on a great, big, beautiful bill, and we're trying to come up with a name. And I said, why don't we just call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill? That's what everyone, so we're going to probably do that, because everyone knows what it means. But later today, I'll be going to the University of Alabama to deliver the keynote commencement address to a record crowd. They have a big crowd. I guess they have 7 ceremonies. And they said, well, if you're doing it, we're putting them all together. I said, that's a lot of people. So we're going to put them all together. It's the first time they've done that. And I'll give it a shot. All right? I hope we can entertain. I will give it a shot. But before we begin, I want to let you know what I was just doing in a really great meeting with Speaker Johnson. We heard also Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Chairman Brett Guthrie, who's a fantastic guy, and Chairman Smith. Everybody knows Chairman Smith. He's the most knowledgeable person on taxes and finances there is, to be updated on the progress of the One Big Beautiful Bill. We love that bill. I won't like it if it doesn't pass, neither will you. If it doesn't pass, your taxes are going to go up 68%. So think of it, 68, and this is a religious ceremony to me, but that's part of the religion. Because if your taxes go up 68%, you might give up your religion. You might have no choice. You'll be working too hard to try and make it. And that's the Democrats. That's what they'll give you. They'll vote against it. It's not even believable. It's called Trump derangement syndrome because, honestly, everything in there is good for Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else. These will be the biggest tax cuts in American history with 100% expensing, which is something that people cannot believe they're getting. We did it in the last one, and we had the most successful economy in my first 4 years that we've ever had, the history of our country. And expensing was one of the things that led to that. But it's 100% expensing for companies investing in America and increasing take-home pay for the typical family by thousands of dollars a year. And to show you how middle income this is, there'll be no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax for the great seniors in Social Security. So you have no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we have full deduction for interest. If you buy a car that's made in America, you get an interest rate deduction. That's going to be it's got to be made in America. If it's not made in America, we really don't care if you buy it or not. But if it's made in America, we want you to buy it. We make the best cars anyway. Things are moving along very well, and I just wanted to say the final details are coming together, and they're coming together rapidly, and I think we're right on schedule, Mike and everyone. And I want to thank you and this group and all of the people that are over there right now, not in the sun. They're working on the bill. It will be the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our Congress, our Senate, and Congress. That's a big achievement. One of the things that's very important will be saving Medicaid for Americans in need. We will not let the Democrats destroy it and all the waste, fraud, and abuse that they seem to love. And they will decimate Medicaid if they get the chance. We're not going to give them that chance. So just remember, we will be saving Medicaid and strengthening it. It'll be actually very strengthened. And they are going to decimate it. We can't let it happen. And very simply, to finish that, we will make America rich and healthy again. And why don't we say rich, healthy, and religious again, okay? Shall I add that for this group? Right, Dan Patrick? Thanks as well to the great people that are here. Pete Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job. Pete, thank you. Marco Rubio, unbelievable. Unbelievable, Marco. When I have a problem, I call up Marco. He gets it solved. He gets it solved. Scott Bessent, he's got a very easy job now. He's negotiating with about 200 countries. Can you handle it? Do you get to sleep at all? He's got phone calls coming in. I was with him before. I had like 30 phone calls. I said, just see me later. They're all calling. Scott Turner, who's doing wonderful work. Recommendation of Ben. Ben, when Ben, recommends you, I have no choice, right? But you're doing great. You're doing great. Attorney General Pam Bondi, she's slightly busy. She's on the busy side with all of the, you have a big assortment of everything when you think of it. She's got every form of crime known to mankind and womankind too. You always have to say that as a politician. But she's doing incredible work. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, thank you. Good job. A man that I can't talk about because he goes undercover most of the time. His whole life is now undercover, but he's central casting when you get to see him, I tell you. He's a handsome guy. If I was casting a movie for the CIA, I'd put this guy in it. Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe. Where's John? John? See? He's undercover. He's here, but he's undercover. He's perfect. U.S. Trade Representative, Jameson Greer, another busy one, huh? Jameson, good. And another one who's negotiating along with Scott and Jameson. He's negotiating all the time. He doesn't want to talk about it. He has no life. Howard Lutnick, Commerce. He has no life. And a very special person, friend of mine for a long time, and she's doing an unbelievable job at small business, which is really big business. When you add up all that small business, it's probably the biggest bank in the world. But she is really capable and doing a fantastic job. We're working with Linda McMahon also on the student loans, getting them paid up. Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, thank you very much. And we're also joined by some special senators. Roger Marshall. Roger, you are a great guy. Whenever I have a problem, he's calling, sir, don't worry about it. I said, thanks, Roger. It's easy for you to say, Roger. But he always is so good. He's a good man. James Lankford. James, I saw you on television. You were fantastic on television. James was defending me on television, something that's not easy to do, but he did a good job. Thank you, James. And Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne, where are you? Don't ever fight Mark Wayne. Yep, thank you, Mark Wayne. Don't ever fight him. He was a fighter. And Cindy Hyde-Smith is here. Cindy, hi, Cindy. Wow. And we have thanks, Cindy, you're doing great. I looked at your numbers. You're very popular. You don't need me to go out and campaign with you this year, huh? Isn't that good? Representatives Mark Harris, Mary Miller, Gary Palmer, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Robert Aderholt, Jason Smith, Chris Smith, Tim Wahlberg, and Josh Brenkein. Thank you all for being here. And we have some others, but I can't see them. I just cannot see them, so I'm going to get myself in trouble. They'll never vote for me again, Ben. That's the problem. You know, if you don't mention, hi, Mary, but Mary will. Thank you also to Senior Advisor Pastor Paula White, who has been so incredible. She's been right from the beginning, Paula, right? And we've had like a 94% poll number, and I think Paula got it more than I got it. She's saying, no, I'm telling you, he's a good person. Well, we don't like him. We don't like him. I'm telling you, he's done more for us than anybody. Oh, okay. And she got us up to about 94%. And my old friends, they couldn't believe that I got that kind of a number with you, understand? But you have done a great job, and Jenny Korn has done an unbelievable job. Jenny? And, you know, they work right out of the White House. They've never done that. That's never been done before. No other president allowed that. I think, you know, they say separation. They say separation between church and state, they told me. I said, all right, let's forget about that for one time. We said, really, the separation? I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. But whether there's separation or not, you guys are in the White House where you should be, and you're representing our country. And we're bringing religion back to our country, and it's a big deal. And I want to say hello, John, the most talented man standing here today. He's one of the most successful artists, and his song is one of the most favored by people of religion. That I can tell you, John. You've done a great job. I always say he's the husband of Paula White, but actually he's very successful. That's always tough to live with, right, John? But not really, because you have an incredible wife that you're proud of, right? Well, that's good. Oh, he just gave her a kiss. That's the first time they've kissed in years. No, I'm only kidding. Great job, actually. The person that's been with me maybe the longest, and she's been just an incredible person, never asks for anything, never wants favors or, gee, could I use your helicopter to get here or there, is named Alveda King, and she's here someplace. Is that? Hi, Alveda. She was here before it was popular, before I had record numbers with the black vote. She was here long before I had record numbers, right? Alveda saw something, and yeah, she was here at the very, very beginning when we were polling on the low side with the black population. Now we're setting records with the black population. We got criminal justice reform done. We got the black colleges and universities, you know. I got that finance for, it was a very interesting story because for 2-3 years, I'd see these really great people, like 50 of them, or maybe a little more. They'd come up to Washington looking for money for historically black colleges and universities, and they'd come up, and the first time was okay. I helped them get it. I got it for them, and that was it. Then the next year they came up, and I said, why are you up here? We took care of you. They said, no, they make us come up every year. I said, you got to be kidding. So we took care of them, Speaker. We got them long-term 10-year financing, more money than they were asking for. And I would say, I think I'm the most popular with those 50 people. They like me. They couldn't believe it because they were forced to come out. This is for 40 years. Every year they'd come up. You know that, Ben. They'd come up, and some of them became friends of mine because they'd come up looking for money all the time. And I said, we got to get you like some long-term money. And I said to them, the only bad thing is I'll probably never see you again. And largely, but I see a couple of them here, largely that happened. But I took care of them, but they never had to come up. So it was a big thing. It was talked about last night, actually, on television. Today, as the American people turn to God in prayer, we continue a tradition older than our independence itself. Nearly 250 years ago, on June 12, 1775, the Continental Congress appointed a day of fasting and prayer so that Americans fighting for their liberty could seek the help of the Almighty. And when you look at that, June 12th, 1775, so we have a very, very special day coming up. You know, we have a lot of them during this term. And interestingly, I had none of them had I not had a rigged election. Had the election not been rigged, I would have been out of here. I would have been gone. The radical left would have said, we got rid of him finally. But no, now they have me for another 4 years. We talk about that. And in the other 4 years, you know, I sort of said, I got the Olympics to come in, and I got the World Cup to come in. And I said, you know, the sad part is it's going to be in the, would be the third term. None of it came in during the, what would be the normal, you know, the more normal way of doing it, like counting the proper votes, et cetera, and just going on. I wouldn't have been president. But now we end up with 4 years later, and we have the 250-year anniversary, and that will be June 12th, 250 years. And you have Flag Day, so there's something happening on Flag Day. It's my birthday. But so you have 250 years in this term. You have the Olympics in this term. We have the Olympics going to Los Angeles. And we have the World Cup. And I was very instrumental in all three of them. They said, would you do it? Because another president refused to call. They needed for the Olympics and the World Cup, they needed the support of the president. And that particular president refused to talk to them. He didn't want to talk to them. I don't know why exactly, but he didn't want to talk. So they said, could you talk? And so I talked, and I talked them into it. And we got those two, and we have 250 years. So this is going to be really 4 years of celebration. So get ready. And we're going to always bring God with us. We're going to bring God to those celebrations. We're not going to forget about God. In a letter to wife Abigail, John Adams wrote of his first National Day of Prayer, millions will be upon their knees at once before their great Creator, imploring his forgiveness and blessing and asking for his favor on the American cause. Beautiful. Today, more than 2.5 centuries later, in the heart of a free and proud America, we rejoice that God answered those prayers. And I think God answered other prayers because he's put in an administration to run this country that's going to make you proud again. It's going to make you believe and believe more again. And we're going to have a country that's very strong. We're already in just 100 days. We're respected all over the world. Every leader's calling, want to have a meeting, appointments. They weren't calling so much last few years. They had no respect for our country. Our country was doing very, very poorly, as you know. Millions and millions of people pouring into our borders from jails and mental institutions and gang members. It was a terrible situation. And yesterday, I don't know if Kristi Noem is here or Tom Homan, but yesterday we had the lowest, safest border in history, 99.999. In other words, 3 people got in, 3. And in the previous, it was hundreds of thousands of people were coming in. We had 3 people. And we have it locked down, but we are allowing people in, but they have to come in legally. So it's a big thing. So I think it's a very big thing. It's just so appropriate that here we are So many things are happening, so many great things, and we won't let countries rip us off anymore. You know, a lot of people like to talk about tariffs. Well, tariffs is exactly what they were doing for us. You know, when you want to defend that, they're a beautiful thing for us if you can use them, if you can get away with using them. It's going to make us very rich. We'll be paying off debt. We'll be lowering your taxes very substantially because so much money will be taken in that we'll be able to lower your taxes even beyond the tax cut that you're going to be getting, hopefully, with the big, beautiful bill. And so it's one of those things which I think it's just a really amazing time. The spirit that we have in this country right now is greater than I've ever seen it before. And it started on November 5th when we won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions. We won every district. Think of this: the districts. It was 2,750 versus 505, and we got 312 electoral votes. Everyone said maybe he can get 270. We got 312. It was a great election, and it has just revitalized the country. And I think I can say one other thing that's to me really incredible, that it can go so quickly. If you remember 6 months ago, prior to the election, we were unable to get people to join our military. We had a waiting list that was a mile long of empty spaces, and we couldn't get anybody to join. We didn't know actually what to do. Now, I wasn't in the administration, but they didn't know what to do. And it was embarrassing to them, frankly, and it should be. And that included police and firemen. You couldn't get people to join anything having to do with any of the military groups, any of the law enforcement groups, first responder groups. You couldn't get anybody to join. And as of yesterday, we had the largest number of recruits in the history of our country. Think of that. And the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all of it, Coast Guard, all of them, they're full. And we have a waiting list, and we're actually picking the ones we want. And we're trying to take care of everybody, but you're picking the ones you want, and it's been amazing. And to think just 6 months ago, you were hearing that people weren't signing up, and that includes now our police force. Our police forces were really starving for people, and this includes our police forces. They're all full up, and they're in great shape. It's amazing the turn, and mostly that spirit. You know, they have spirit. It's nothing else. They have spirit. They love our country again. And we're making our country great. We're making our country greater than ever before. I created a historic White House faith office in the West Wing. And that's going to be an office that's been very well. I see already you have a lot of people going back and forth, and that's good. That's what we want, to defend and represent people of all faiths and their religious freedoms at home and abroad. But they're coming, really, it's probably doubled the action in the White House. It's been amazing to watch and beautiful to watch. The White House can handle it. This important office will work to protect vulnerable women and children, strengthen the American family, promote the dignity of work and choice in education. And people that are in trouble can come in and they take care of them. Sometimes they'll send them to a doctor. Sometimes Paula does this, and Jenny, others that are in the office. They're doing an amazing job. And I wanted them to have that office. Never happened before. I don't think that's ever happened before, right? People of faith have never been allowed in the White House. We'll probably be sued tomorrow because they're going to say church, separation of church and state. Can't do that, right? But we'll win. Pam will win that suit. She wins them. She ultimately wins them. She gets them. Sometimes they get a judge that's not so good, but she ultimately wins. That's what it's all about, right, Pam? I pardoned Americans of faith thrown in jail for praying in peaceful protest. We reinstated service members thrown out of the military over religious objections to Biden's vaccine mandate. We did a vaccine, but we didn't do a mandate. He did a mandate, threw them out if they didn't take it. Can't do that. I signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism and set up a DOJ task force to eradicate the anti-Christian bias. We've taken away a lot of, you know what? Sit down, please. I didn't even know you were standing. What an honor that you stood so long. Wow, that's a great honor. Thank you. Because I know if Biden were up here, you would have been seated. You might have never stood up. No, that's a great honor. I didn't realize it. I signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism. It's a big thing, a big thing. And I set up a DOJ task force, which is really a big thing, and Dan, you're going to be involved in it, to eradicate anti-Christian bias. You haven't heard that, but there's anti-Christian bias also. And in just a few moments, I'll also be signing an executive order creating a presidential commission on religious liberty, which is really why we're here, more than any other reason. Many of the new commissioners are here with us, including people that have been with me from the beginning. The chairman is Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, whose idea this was. And stand up, Dan. What a great guy. What a great political person. He's an amazing politician, Lieutenant Governor, and he's a man of great religion. Thank you very much, Dan. As well as Dr. Ben Carson. Ben, I don't have to say much about Ben. I don't have to say much. He's been with me from the beginning. You know, he was campaigning against me originally. Can I tell that story, Ben? You mind? Are you sure you don't mind? Because he was campaigning and he was very effective, and he was going up in the polls, and he looked at me about 3 or 4 debates in, and he said, "You know, you're going to win by a lot, don't you?" This was during 2016. And I said, "What do you mean, Ben? What do you mean? You're campaigning. Don't say that, Ben. You're campaigning. You have a shot." He was a little bit behind, but it's pretty far enough. But he said, "You know you're going to win. These people can't beat you. Nobody's going to be able to beat you." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because God is with you." I said, "That's nice." Then he said it once again in the church. Remember that, Ben? He pulled me over. He said, "Remember what I told you. God is with you." And we went on to win 3 times. We won. We won the first time. We did great the second time. We won the second time. Everybody knows it. But we made it too big to rig the third time. Too big to rig. They tried. They tried. So I want to thank Ben, who has been with me right from the beginning. You're an amazing person, and you gave us a great recommendation in this young gentleman who's doing a fantastic job at HUD. Thank you very much. Really good. Also, we have Dr. Phil McGraw. Where's Dr. Phil? Oh, you are so big. Come here, Phil. Come here. This guy. He came up, he wanted to do an interview, and I knew him as everybody sort of knows him, right? But he said, "You know, they don't really understand the real Trump. I want to do it." And he did the nicest interview, talked about things that nobody ever asked me. And a lot of people watched it. I was a little surprised. He's got his own network, and he's become seriously rich. He said, "I'll put it on Merit." I said, "What the hell is Merit?" He said, "That's my network." I said, "Well, I did it as a favor for him, but it turned out to be a favor for me because so many people, millions and millions of people watched it." Would you like to say a few words, or are you shy?
No, I'll speak.
Let's go.
Mr. President, I can't tell you, first off, how proud I am to see religion coming back to the White House. God bless you. God bless you for doing this. And let me tell you, it's not a popular thing to do in America right now. And Speaker Johnson is here, and you know he's a man of religion. But you know, I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening, nobody watching. And I'm telling you, this is a man of deep faith, a man of deep conviction. And this is a man that wants this country to have a heart and have religion. And God bless America for giving us President Donald Trump. And when nobody's listening and nobody's looking, this man cares about every single person in America, independent of race, color, creed, whatever, and it comes from the heart with him. And I am proud to call him my president, and God bless you, Mr. President. God bless you. God bless you. And don't be so surprised when millions of people watch my interviews.
No, I know. I'm very impressed.
When it's tens of millions. With me, it's millions. You're 10x whenever I talk to you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. Be careful.
And thank you for letting me be on this commission.
We love it. Be careful. I asked him, please be careful, Phil. We don't want you falling. Because when you fall, it doesn't work. That's been proven. That's been proven. But he doesn't fall. He doesn't know how to fall. I also want to look at Bishop Robert Barron, who's been so great. Bishop, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great job. Pastor Paula White, if you would stand up, Paula, please. Thank you very much. Rabbi Mayor Solovey-Chek. Rabbi, how are you, Rabbi? Thank you very much, Rabbi. Good job. Kelly Shackelford. Good. Nice seeing you, Kelly. Ryan Anderson. Thank you, Ryan. These are great people. Carrie Bowler. Hi. Hi, Carrie. Attorney General Pam Bondi, star. This is a star. Thanks, Pam. That's great. Secretary Scott Turner. Scott, thank you. As well as a man, he has really an excuse. It's Cardinal Dolan, and Cardinal Dolan is in Rome. I just left Rome. It's a beautiful service. But he's in Rome having to vote for the next pope. I got extremely upset. I said, you can't do that. This is much more important. He was actually torn, if you want to know the truth, which is pretty good. But he's on the council too, and he's a great guy, and I've known him for a long time. I'd like to ask, if I might, to have Dan Patrick, one of the most highly respected men in politics. We worked on something having to do with your governor. We worked on something having to do with school choice, and we knocked it over the fences first to really, and that's the ultimate school choice in Texas. And he's been fighting for it for years, and we got it over the line pretty easily, as it turned out. So please come up and speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for making this happen. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you for establishing what I think will be one of the most important presidential commissions in history. It will be one of your great legacies, of which you will have many. We have in this country, we have a magnificent inheritance of religious liberty. And every believer today, no matter your faith, has a claim to that inheritance. We were a nation birthed by prayer, founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic, to ensure that people could worship as they wished without interference from government, but that is no longer the case. The last administration attacked people of faith for 4 years. There's a saying that no one should get between a doctor and a patient. I think we would say no one should get between God and a believer. No one should get between God and those seeking Him. There are so many people in this country, they may even have a family, they may have a job with a lot of employees, but they're alone, and the only person they can turn to is someone who's not listening, but they can turn to God because He is their refuge and He is their wellspring of hope. And no one, no government, no school district, at any level of government or in the private sector should say to someone, you can't pray here or where. That is our right. That is our right. And Mr. President, you have given us an incredible committee. I'm a little overwhelmed. I feel like a pair of brown shoes in a room full of tuxedos, if you want to know. These are high caliber, the foremost faith leaders, scholars, thinkers that you've put together. So on this day, Mr. President, on this day, you are restoring the hopes and the prayers of millions upon millions of believers of all faiths. There's never been a president who has invoked the name of Jesus more than you. There's never been a president who says, yes, I love Jesus, but I love people of all faiths, as Dr. Phil said. You have a heart for every American, and you're showing that today. I'm proud to represent you as chair Proud to have Ben Carson as our vice chair and every member of this committee. We will serve you, we will serve the people, and most importantly, we will serve God. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. Beautiful. You're going to do an incredible job. He came to me with this idea, called Paula, called Jenny, called all of us, and it just came together. And we'll be adding some incredible names, some of the people that are here right now that have been with me from the beginning. Some sitting right over there, my friends, my pastors, and ministers, and rabbis. We'll be adding quite a few. It's very important. And they'll be largely, when they can, we're going to be using the White House. We have plenty of room, so we'll be using the White House to have some of your meetings. And it's a real honor to have you, Dan. You've been so respected for so long. As we defend religious freedom in America, we're also standing up against religious persecution around the world. With us today are the parents of Eden Alexander, the last living American held hostage by Hamas. Thank you. Thank you. And we don't know how he's doing, really, do we? We don't know. We think we know, and hopefully positive. 2 months ago, we were pretty sure and looked like he was getting out, but they've toughened up a little bit, and it's a terrible thing. I know what you're going through. A New Jersey boy, Eden, moved to Israel in 2022 and was taken hostage on the vicious October 7th attack on Jewish people. And now I will tell you that's an attack that would have never happened because the money was given by Iran to Hamas. Iran had no money when I was president. They were out of money. They were bust. They had no money. They weren't giving it to Hamas. They weren't giving it to Hezbollah. They weren't giving it to anybody because they didn't have any money. They were just about bust. And in fact, I put sanctions on last night. Any oil that anybody takes from Iran is not allowed to do business in the United States of America. Which is what I did the last time. That drove them into a very bad state, and they were ready to make a deal, except for the election. Didn't turn out the way it should have. It was a rigged election, and we might as well say it. But it was totally rigged. It was disgraceful. I think it's going to go down as one of the biggest. We wouldn't have, think of it, your son would be home. You wouldn't have had October 7th. You wouldn't have had the Ukraine-Russian horror show that's going on that we're trying to stop, where 5,000 young Russians, mostly Russians, and Ukrainian soldiers are being killed every single week, 5,000 a week. So think of those parents, you know, they're from Russia, they're from Ukraine for the most part, and other people, but for the most part. And that would have never happened. It was never going to happen. No chance of it happening. Putin and I talked all the time. He knew it wasn't going to happen. I told him it wasn't going to happen. And through gross incompetence, it did take place, and it's a horrible thing. And you wouldn't have had inflation. Think of it. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had the horror show at Afghanistan, which I think is what gave Putin the resolve to go in and do what he did, because he looked at how badly we got out. We lost 13 soldiers. 42 were horribly injured. Nobody ever talks about them. The legs, the arms, the face, horribly injured. That would have never happened. Not even possible to have happened. And we would have been out before he was out. I was the one that got it down to the 5,000, but we were going to keep Bagram, the big Air Force base, which is 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear. That's what they do. They make their nuclear missiles, and 1 hour away from Bagram. And I said, you can't give up Bagram. They gave up Bagram, and right now China occupies Bagram. So sad, so crazy. One of the biggest air bases in the world, among the strongest and longest runways anywhere in the world. 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear missiles. It would have been great to have. Well, we were keeping it, but they ran out of there like nobody can believe. And I think Putin saw that.
And that's Donald Trump there at the White House speaking at what is a National Day of Prayer event, a speech there. And he started off by saying we're one nation under God, something the radical left would like to do away with, but we won't let them. Time and again, it seemed Mr. Trump called for divine intervention has taken place He said today millions of Americans will be on their knees praying, and God put in an administration that will make America great again. The spirit we have in America now is the greatest in our history. He talked about record numbers of military conscripts, of police conscripts. He spoke about a bill coming up which will cut taxes for Americans by 68%, a huge amount to talk about there, and we're still waiting for the world's media to cross-examine Donald Trump. Let's get some analysis now. I'm joined by the chair of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Greg, it's been way too long, my friend. Great to have you on the show today. A wide-ranging speech there, but something which leapt out is that time and again, the central importance of faith, of prayer. We're going to make religion great again, Donald Trump said.
Yeah, he sure did. And the president is in kind of campaign mode. You know, that almost sounded like a campaign speech, you know, criticizing the prior administration. But that's what he does. You know, he's always selling. It's as the Clintons used to call it in the 90s, you know, the permanent campaign. But I think it's important that he does that to keep the voters on side, to keep the optimism going. And also, you know, he's very transparent. He wants everybody to know exactly what's going on. So good for him.
And there's been a lot of talk, of course, about the potential downturn in the US economy, talk of a recession after the impact of tariffs there. Greg, you're joining us from Chicago. What are Americans talking about on the ground? I was in Texas. I got back yesterday, and Texans are very optimistic about the future. They seem to be of the mindset, short-term pain, long-term gain.
Absolutely, Martin. That is definitely the attitude in America. I'm in Chicago. Granted, it's a blue state, but it's a 55-45 state, and there's a lot of optimism here. We've seen this city and state being run into the ground by progressive policies. So with President Trump in the White House, you know, people are really optimistic. Most of the negative sentiment is from hedge fund traders who are on the wrong side of a very crowded trade, and progressive left media, you know, that just have Trump derangement syndrome. And then if you look through the numbers, if you look through the data, you realize that what he's doing is really sensible, and it's going to be quite beneficial for the Main Street real economy.
And Greg Swenson, that phrase, Trump derangement syndrome, Donald Trump even mentioned that himself a short while ago. He was talking about this bill. He said, I want to call it the big, beautiful bill. Greg Swenson, he mentioned there, it carries details of 68% tax cuts. Sounds astonishing. Tell us a bit more about this bill.
Yeah, they call it the big, beautiful bill. He named it that, you know, during the campaign or maybe right after the election. And it's funny because it's caught on. So now all of the people in Congress and the media, or at least the conservative media, call it the big, beautiful bill. And basically, it's a collection of pro-business, pro-wage growth policy, starting with tax reform, you know, tax reductions, of course, but also deregulation, which is really critical. A massive deregulation. In his first term, for every new regulation, there were 7 regulations eliminated. His goal now is 1 and 10. And whether the ratio is met or not, I think we're going to see a really great economic outcomes from the deregulation and the tax reform, as well as the, you know, restructuring global trade, which is you know, on the top of the agenda right now.
And Greg, some of the details there. No tax on tips. Of course, that was the policy that Kamala Harris seemed to, how should we put it, appropriate during her failed electoral cycle. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security for seniors, something which I know GBNews viewers would welcome here. A lot of pensioners in Britain being dragged into fiscal drag paying tax. And no tax on American cars. We don't care if you buy a car if it's American. So this is a huge stimulus for the economy. But back to that phrase, Trump derangement syndrome, Greg Swenson, he said the Democrats are almost certain to vote this down.
Well, yeah, they will try. They don't have the majority right now. So I do think that it will pass. There's a couple of stragglers on the Republican side that are basically they want more spending cuts, more reform to the government. I don't think they'll get it. But there will be significant spending cuts in that bill. But more importantly, there'll be tax reform and deregulation. So, yeah, this is something that will grow the economy and actually grow the tax base and have higher tax revenues ultimately because of the growth, especially in wage growth.
And, Greg Swenson, this is what really, really matters to the electorate. It was the same in 2016 in the cycle there, the Medicare bill to make people pay their insurance taxes. My sister lives in Texas. Her medical insurance bill would have been the biggest bill in her life, bigger than her mortgage, bigger than anything else. This is what people really, really care about, the dollars and the cents in their pockets.
Right. And of course, the Democrats are being completely dishonest in saying that the Republicans are going to cut health care spending. Look, we can make reforms, we can make it more efficient, and also maybe attach some work requirements to beneficiaries. This isn't we're not talking about the bottom 10%, the safety net. We're talking about, constructive reforms, but they are not cutting Medicaid or Medicare, and Medicaid is for working poor, and Medicare or Medicare is for seniors. But anyway, it's something that is unsustainable right now. So there will have to be reforms, but that's not something the president campaigned on. He would rather let the private sector develop, and that ultimately ends up making it more efficient to provide for people who need it and provide for that safety net. But he's doing it through the private sector. This is not economic growth by reckless government spending, which is unsustainable and also crowds out the private sector. It's completely inefficient. It's socialism gone wild. That's what we had for 4 years with Biden.
And he said it would be the biggest package of tax cuts in American history, and yet he expects the radical left, as you put them, to vote against it through Trump derangement syndrome. Can I also ask you, Greg, as I have you here, we have a few minutes left on the programme, about the announcement a short while ago for the White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy Alex Wong to part company with the White House. That phrase now, again, the hostile media will say this is typical, expected of the anarchy of the Trump regime. Yet, when that Signal social media leak went out and hostile journalists from The Atlantic got a hold of these leaks, surely there was only a one-way ticket to leaving the administration coming their way.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. I mean, the same people that were complaining that no one was held accountable for the problem with the Signal chat are the ones saying now that the Trump is a wild man and he fires people and there's chaos in the administration. Look, President Trump's not afraid to fire people, that's for sure. And contrasting to the last 4 years where Joe Biden didn't fire anybody. And part of the reason he didn't fire anybody is he was afraid that they would write a book or a tell-all about his cognitive issues. So he kept everybody, even Mark Milley, after he disappeared, or I'm sorry, I might be confusing Milley with the Secretary of Defense, pardon me, but the Secretary of Defense disappeared, went AWOL for a handful of days for surgery and didn't tell anybody, didn't get fired. Nobody got fired after the Afghanistan debacle. So look, I think President Trump holds people accountable. Someone had to go for that. This is very much like in the military. It might not be an officer's fault, but if it happened on his watch, someone has to be responsible.
And just to recap for those tuning in or those listening on the radio, we see live pictures now from the White House at the National Day of Prayer event. Multi-faith leaders taking the stage now to stand alongside Donald Trump. Greg Swenson, can I quickly ask you about one thing that really leapt out there, and that is Donald Trump announcing a significant victory in controlling illegal immigration. On the course, that southern border to Mexico had been very porous during the previous administration. He said a 99.9% decrease. Just 3 people entered America. 3 illegally yesterday. That's astonishing.
And he did it without any new funding, any new regulations. He did it just by enforcing the law, which Biden refused to do. It's interesting that he announced it at the prayer breakfast, because you'll have some on the progressive left that will say, oh, it's immoral and, we should welcome anybody. That's not true. All we did was create a vehicle for sex trafficking, for human trafficking, for fentanyl tracking, all these gangs. Biden basically outsourced the control of the border to the Mexican drug and sex trafficking cartels. So good for President Trump for putting an end to it.
Yeah, and just to repeat there, multi-faith leaders taking the stage at the White House behind Donald Trump. And, just very quickly, this notion of Donald Trump making prayer American again, reclaiming religion seems to have gone down very well, even with young people.
Absolutely. God is back. The young people, the Gen Z, is basically conservative. They are moving into the Republican Party more than any other demographic. It's great to see. He's speaking at University of Alabama tonight at their commencement address. So this is good news. God is back. Religion is back. Traditional values are back. So it's great to see the Republican wave right now.
Greg Swenson, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure. We have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much. Now, Donald Trump spoke a lot today about divine intervention, and we have some of that now on GB News, because next 6 p.m. is Jubes & Co. And we can now speak with the Queen of Primetime TV, Michelle Dewberry.
Hello, Martin. Well, it's not just God who's back, it's you that's back. I've missed you. Welcome back. Over on Jubes & Co tonight, ladies and gents, there is a lot we need to discuss. The killer of Chris Cabba, should he be facing disciplinary procedures after he was cleared by a court? What do you think to that? And of course, I can't resist looking at the common sense scenario that's finally come out of the FA, telling men that they can't play women's football. Good. Also, drug consumption rooms, people complaining about the impact that has had on the neighbourhood. You don't say. See you in a minute.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's very warm out there, even hot in places. Sunny skies across England and Wales, but cooler, cloudier weather spreading into Scotland and Northern Ireland for the rest of the day, along with a few showers because of this cold front. And this cold front separates the heat to the south, with much fresher air coming in to the north. Now, the heat in the south could set off the odd shower or thunderstorm heading into the late afternoon, evening period. They'll linger across some central parts overnight. Otherwise, most places are dry with clear spells through the hours of darkness. And again, temperature contrast will be significant overnight. Low single figures possible in the north, even a touch of grass frost, but further south, another warm and muggy night in places. That leads us on to a bright start for most of us first thing Friday. Still some showers across the far north and northwest of Scotland, a cool breeze here, and plenty of cloud in the northwest of Scotland, but some decent sunny spells through Aberdeenshire, across Fife into the central belt. Northern Ireland also seeing bright skies first thing, but we've got this zone of cloud and a few showers dotted across parts of mid Wales into the Midlands, and cloudier skies certainly compared with the recent mornings for some southern and more especially southwestern counties of England. That'll tend to thin into the afternoon, and then plenty of sunny skies once again across England and Wales. Once more, though, Northern Ireland, Scotland seeing largely cloudy conditions, although brightening up as the day progresses. A few showers in the far north of Scotland, but for most, it's a dry afternoon, and it's still very warm in the south and southeast, 26, 27 Celsius, much fresher elsewhere. Could see the odd shower for some of these southern counties of England, but for the vast majority, it's a dry and fine day because we've still got high pressure nearby. However, it's bringing winds in from a different direction, so mostly fine weather going into the bank holiday weekend, 1 or 2 showers, but temperatures dropping away.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound at Junction 4 in Whitburn is closed due to essential roadworks. Please follow the signed diversion for an alternative route. The M20 westbound in Kent between Junction 12 and Junction 11 is closed as a vehicle fire has occurred. 3 out of 4 lanes are closed on the M6 southbound between Junction 21A and Junction 21 due to a collision. This is resulting in delays of 50 minutes. The M4 eastbound between Junction 19 and Junction 20 in South Gloucestershire is experiencing congestion with approximately 10-minute delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We have a royal invitation for you this Bank Holiday Monday.